This is a regular meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. It is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, and it is 6:30 p.m. We will continue until all items are complete. We are meeting obviously remotely. No one is in the chamber, the commission chambers. We heard some people had called in or signed up to come in on this. So we will do the best we can. Carlos, if you'll get the flag up there, we can. Thank you. If everyone will stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. Linda, if you will guide us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Guess we should have a moment of silence as well. We don't have it on the agenda, but I think we should. A moment of silence, especially during these trying times for our first responders and all those who are working to protect us in the hospitals and all across the country. So if you'll just bend your head for a moment. All right, thank you. Do we have any deletions or changes to the agenda?
Chair, I had a couple suggestions.
I don't know who's speaking.
Eric Cooley, Chair.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I would like to request item 4A go under general business, if that's okay.
Okay.
And I'd also like to move item 13 up to the first order of general business, if that's okay.
Everybody okay with those two suggestions?
I am. I thought we ought to move the city manager item up as well.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to move 4A to the first item under general business. Is that what you suggested, Eric?
No,
Item 13.
No, 4A, let's go back to 4A. You wanted that to be?
4A just needs to be moved under general business, but I would do that after the item 13, which is Larry topic. I would also do it after the EDTF appointment so we can let those go.
All right, so we'll make item 4A be 13.
That'll work.
And 13 to be number 9?
No.
No?
Correct.
yes,
But I thought you said that, okay. Anybody else? I had a suggestion too, since we have several people hanging out waiting to see if we're going to vote for them for the EVTF, that maybe we do that a little earlier as well. So they don't have to sit through everything else. If everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so we'll make
Yes.
number 11 be number 9. No, we already have number 9, number 10. Okay, I think I've got this figured out. Okay. So our next item is the proclamation, Linda.
Yes, I have a proclamation recognizing National Volunteer Month in the city of Flagler Beach. Whereas April was established as the official time to recognize and celebrate the efforts of volunteers at the local, state, and national levels. And whereas volunteers can connect with local community service experiences through hundreds of community service organizations, including Flagler Volunteer Services. And whereas volunteers address the most pressing challenges facing our cities, counties, and our nation, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families, to preserving the environment and helping communities recover from natural disasters. And whereas volunteering enhances the lives of volunteers, increases self-esteem and physical well-being, provides opportunities to learn new skills and abilities, and offers a chance to meet new friends and associates. And whereas nonprofits, charities, community and faith-based groups, schools, national service programs, and volunteer centers, such as Flagler Volunteer Services, have joined with state and local governments to celebrate and praise volunteers who have given tirelessly and selflessly to the service of others. And whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive nation, now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and city of Flagler Beach, Florida does hereby recognize April as National Volunteer Month in the city of Flagler Beach, and encourages residents to recognize the positive impact of volunteer service in our city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities.
Okay, Suzy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes.
Hi,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes. Hi. Well, first I wanted to say thank you so much for including us in this. I know it's a different time. Normally I'm there and it's happy to see everybody there. So I'm happy to hear you on the call. And I wanted to just say thank you for your support, volunteers in our community. I wanted to also share some numbers with you like I do every year. This past year in 2019, we had 3,067 volunteers who served 164,406 hours at 42 different organizations in Flagler County. 162 of those volunteers were from Flagler Beach, and they served 9,874 hours. So the Flagler Beach residents are great. They're out there volunteering every day. I know right now we're really low on our volunteer numbers because of the coronavirus, but we still have volunteers who are out there serving. In fact, we have people who are doing who are helping with the testing. And we also have people who are helping at the call center, helping with the health department, doing visits to local assisted livings. So our volunteers, even though they're smaller in numbers right now due to this, they are still very active. We've done over 500 hours already just for COVID-19. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you to all the volunteers. It's been really difficult for us not to be able to do all of our volunteer recognition. And I really appreciate being able to be joining y'all today to thank the volunteers for their work.
Well, thank you, Suzy, for all you do and all the people that are in your organizations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Especially now.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All righty, so we're going to move on now to Mr. Hadid, the Dune Restoration Project.
Good evening, City Commission and staff. I did submit a written report. I'll amplify in certain areas. We do have 91 easements now. They cover 93 properties. However, we still have 26 owners for whom we have no progress, and I'm very concerned about that. You should likewise be concerned about that. Any owner who doesn't sign is going to be a hole in the linear strength of our beach renourishment. And if we have too many holes, the Army Corps may not do our project. I have run into a misconception by a couple of owners, and I don't know if you've heard this, but I want to tell you and straighten this out, make it abundantly clear. If they decline to execute an easement, that means they are declining permission for the Army Corps to work on their property. Some are expecting, oh, well, I don't have to sign, they'll do it anyway. No, they won't. It is true that many, many years past, when the Corps used to do renourishment projects, they performed it under much less rigorous protocols than exist today. So today, as you might imagine, with the evolution of the federal agency dealing with a lot of disasters, they have very strict protocols. if they do not have an easement, they will do nothing to the person's property. That is across the board. That's in the contractor's license. And the reason is that the agency is attempting to minimize its own workload by avoiding nuisance suits from owners who say, well, you did something to my property and you didn't have permission. So if somebody doesn't sign, they're not getting sand, they're not getting vegetation, they are not getting emergency repair, they are not getting regular maintenance of that dune. It's going to be there and erode however nature takes its course without the benefit of the dune renourishment. So I want to make sure that that's out there and understood. Another point that people are making, and I can understand this one a little more, they're very concerned about whether the work on the beach, the renourishment, is going to somehow compromise their views. The simple answer to that is no, it won't. And the second part of that is it will actually enhance their views because they'll have a real beach to look at, a very substantial beach harkening back to 20 or 30 years ago. So what are they concerned about? They're concerned, as they've expressed it, that after the project's over, because they read our Q&A, and the Q&A says, okay, there's not going to be sand piled above A1A. There is a good reason for that. Nobody has any secret plan to heighten the dune above A1A. And the reason is it is not considered cost effective. The Army Corps is not going to pay the contractor, and the contractor is not going to be permitted to add sand to heighten the dune above A1A because it will add no strength to the armament for Flagler Beach. So when a proposed part of a construction project is deemed non-essential and non-effective, it will not be done. So that is contractual, just so and permit. The renourishment occurs per a signed, sealed set of drawings that the Army Corps has, and none of them have the sand going above the roadway. So those views will not be obscured by some hypothetical feared 2 or 3 or 6 feet, or I don't know what people are imagining, but that's not going to happen. Now, the other element is, well, we're going to plant vegetation. But as you know, I don't know how many times I've said it, not just to you, I said it in Santa Maria del Mar, I've said it at the county commission meetings. Every opportunity I get to talk about this is the vegetation. We are not planting any vegetation at the top of that dune, or actually on the dune, that has potential for significant height. It's all the low-growing native vegetation that we're accustomed to. So what does that mean? That means sea grapes are not included. Is it possible that the contractor is going to install sea grapes? No, it's not. There's a specific contract that defines exactly the plant species that are provided. So I want to make sure if you run into people saying that you have enough information that you can respond. Of course, if you get anybody and they're quizzical or you can't quite hit it exactly, you make sure to give them the phone number. You know, all the links are there. There's a dedicated phone line, there's a dedicated email, and there's obviously a website as well. And the website even has a way to communicate information back to us. So let's get rid of those kind of concerns. Nevertheless, we're left with 26 owners from whom we have had zero progress. Now that's not a good thing to hear, but I do want to tell you that we've had a lot of positive participation. For instance, I know that the Preserve Flagler Beach, Bulow Creek organization has something out on their webpage. I think they were going to do a mailer. I don't know if they actually did one. They asked us for a list, provide them a list of everybody who hasn't provided an easement, and I've done that. Madam Chair and Madam Mayor, both of you have been doing a great job getting us some very difficult people, and that's been very helpful. The tax collector and the property appraiser have both reached out to people and answered their questions. You know, are my taxes going to go up? you know, how's this going to affect my property, et cetera. So they've been very much available, and those have been very productive efforts. I have said this before. I believe that some of this is a wait and see. Some owners aren't sure what to do, and they want to wait to see those with more substantial financial interests. What are they going to do? I mean, they're going to want to make, every owner's going to want to make the smart choice. I mean, I don't take that away from any owner. So therefore, if that has any accuracy for any of the owners of the 26 that we're talking about, then I think it's very important that we redouble our efforts to get the Topaz and the Flagler Beach Motel to sign easements. Now, I've talked to the owner of the Flagler Beach Motel, and there was some interest in doing it. Mr. Shoup, former Commissioner Shoup, also spoke with them, but they haven't answered my inquiry in quite a bit of time. So I'm almost ready to take them off the in progress list and put them in the list of those that we have concerns about. So I think that you all are in the best position to get your business owners to see the wisdom of this project and to see the negative impact of their not signing on, not just to themselves, but to the entire community. So I think that's important. I did point out in my report that very recently, Barry Griffin, the Whale Watch Motel, has agreed to sign on. So that's a positive in getting more businesses to sign on. I did, now shifting gears a little bit, you know, we've got the coronavirus. So that does have an impact. People can't get out, but we are arranging ways for them to sign in a very safe way. Shortly, the tax collector is going to reopen the Flagler Beach office that will give us a better venue in order to assure that opportunity for individuals to sign up in a safe environment. She is making internal modifications so that there will be a safe and protected space for people to execute easements that we might need. Now, I want to shift to, we've been talking about the Army Corps project. I want to let you know something else that we've done. Yesterday, we have started to put together our easement program for the non-federal portion. Just as a reminder, the non-federal portion is everything south of South 28th Street, all the way down to our county line, and north of South 6th Street, all the way up into some part of the retaining wall. So we are going ahead and doing that. Yesterday, we initiated the title searches, and we'll be figuring out how to roll out that program. One of the things that I do want to tell you about the direction of that, you know, the easement document that we're dealing with is one that is prescribed by the federal government. And I have every respect for their talent. It is really loaded up with clauses and words. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that document and we're going to change the verbiage so that it's a little more property owner friendly in terms of understanding what it is. But for all practical purposes, it will be equivalent in this regard. It will be the kind of easement that's necessary to qualify it as an engineered beach for FEMA assistance in the future. It will be available for perhaps a future Army Corps project if they decide at a later time to allow us to use their resources for that portion of the beach at some later time. So it will enable them, because of the permission that's extended, because of the nature of the permission that is provided, this easement, this, I don't know what to call it, a more consumer-friendly easement is going to provide the same degree of access by the Army Corps or any other entity, whether it's FEMA, whether it's the city of Flagler Beach, whether it's Flagler County, in order to address the dune situation. So I wanted to let you know that. Let me see what else. Well, you all know we have a number. You want to jot it down if anybody has any questions. Dedicated line. It's only for the easement projects from the South County border all the way to the border with St. Johns County. That's 313-4040, 313-4040. And the email address is shores@flaglercounty.org. Same thing. Dedicated email for all of our beaches, anything having to do with the dunes.
Could you
So-
do that again, Al? Sorry.
Shores, SHORES, shores@flaglercounty.org. Dedicated email. It'll be in place for years, and that's how we're gonna be able to answer people's inquiries. Anybody who's got a question, we're gonna be available to do that however long all these dune projects take. So
Okay.
thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present that, and appreciate, of course, all the help and cooperation that we've gotten from the city. Thank
Chair,
you.
I have a question that I can,
Yeah, Carlos, can we get back to everybody's picture? I see a big Al, a little piece of me, a little piece of Linda.
Jane, it's Jared. You can click on the upper right-hand corner. There's the
Oh, it,
little
okay.
9-button view.
I got it, got it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
click that and you'll get everybody back.
Okay, I got it now.
okay, Chair, it was me.
Yeah, okay, hi.
Hey, Al, you told us about a month and a half ago, or whenever we had our last meeting in the chambers, that you would provide us with that list of who's still not signed off yet. And Penny, did we ever get something from him on that? If we did, I didn't get it.
I don't recall off the top of my head. Al, did you send it? It's been a while. I've been COVID crazy.
Yeah, I'll be happy to send a list out.
Yeah, I mean, that'll certainly make it. I mean, the idea was that if somebody that we knew personally was on that list, it may be easy for one of us to approach that person.
Yeah, I do want to tell you, this is a very good point. It's not just you, but anybody can go to our website and you can know exactly who has and who has not provided an easement. You can look on their parcel. You can click right to their property card, identifies their name, their address, tells you the history of the property if you're into that. But all of that information has been available. But we have specific groups have asked us, for instance, to preserve Flagler Beach, Bulow Creek. They asked us, I don't know, I'm going to say about 2 weeks ago under the public records law, can you give us a list? And I provided them. We have had other people ask for the list. I don't know. I mean, we generate those. If somehow we overlook sending it to the city commissioners, believe me, I'll be happy to fill your email box tomorrow.
Yes, please. I appreciate that.
So, Al,
I have another question while I got out, just for a second. You said that the north end is going to go how far? Up to the wall? Or
No.
is it going, are we going to put sand in front of that wall?
We're going to overlap the southern portion of the retaining wall so that you have a consistent structure. It is under consideration about adding more sand in front of the retaining wall. That's not been determined yet. We're
Okay,
working with FDOT with respect to that.
understood.
If
All right, thanks, Al.
you guys don't mind, can I chime in on that one? I talked to DOT this morning. Sorry, Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure. DOT is willing to give us the sand when it comes to the wall. And they're willing to bring it over here and dump it. And so is that going to be part of the beach renourishment deal on the top side? No, they're ready to go ahead and do that outside of all the chaos we're dealing with. And I'm gonna be looking at coordinating on how we can get that sand spreaded. That was a conversation I had with Ron Mead this morning. Al,
Thank
on the
you, Larry.
26 people you were talking about, how many of the 26 people have been approached, and do we know what their response? That way, if we go back in again, we know exactly why they may or may not object to the project.
yeah, I had the question, have each of those, Al, have each of those 26 people responded in some way to you?
Virtually all of them have not responded. They've had 3 written communications, and they have otherwise been contacted or attempted to be contacted directly. Some of them have just not returned our calls.
Okay. So not in writing, not like, not calls, not anything.
Madam Chair, let me just say this for all of you. There is absolutely no excuse for somebody not to know what's going on, a property owner. The amount of reach out is incredibly substantial, much more substantial than any project that I can think of that has ever been undertaken in the county.
Oh, I didn't ask because I thought you hadn't tried to get to them. I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to see if they had responded negatively or positively or not at all.
No, and the reason I said that was not because of what your remark. The reason I said that is to further shame them for not helping the city save itself from future major storms that could unalterably change the character of Flagler Beach. Makes no sense to me.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about? I had another question. Are most of those 26 properties contiguous to each other?
There are some that are contiguous. There's one of the reasons why I have urged the topaz is there is a cluster of them immediately south of the topaz that we haven't had many sign up. And there's a cluster of them on the south end, like about the 26, the 2700 block. You can look at, you can go to our website, shoreuptheshore.org. You get those maps and you can zoom in on the map and you can see the patterns. You can see where you see red, you know, that means that there, when you're looking at the map, you know, from its current view, you see red, that means there's a bunch of red. When you magnify on it, when you zoom in on it, you can see how many parcels there are. Now we do have, just to assuage everybody's concern, we do have parcels up and down throughout. So it's not that there's this, I don't know, 2-block segment that has no green, that is easement recorded parcels. We do have them across the entire beachfront of the project, but there are some areas where it's just been harder to penetrate. Oh, here's one. This is something I think you ought to weigh. All right, so some people are relying on the fact that they've got a city dune walkover nearby. So they don't think that they're going to need any other access to be able to get to the beach. You know, the Reneris Beach for everybody else gives them access, right? They get to walk down a gradual slope. So many of them do not see that as an advantage because they're gonna be able to use the walkover that's there. But what I've tried to communicate, and of course I don't really have the authority to do this. This is something that Larry and his staff can weigh. You as commissioners can weigh as a matter of policy. But let's say there's a hole right next to one of your walkovers, right? Your walkover has the sand armament in there, but the next door person chooses not to. If that walkover is damaged in a storm, are you going to rebuild it there? My guess is, I mean, I don't think that would be a wise investment, but I'm not the city of Flagler Beach. I do think you may need to articulate some policies to get people to understand that, you know, this is a really serious undertaking.
Okay,
And it's
thank you.
not an easy way out of this.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ken.
Hadid, I just got an email from the Preserve Flagler Beach Group, and what they're indicating is they'd like to reach out to you and speak to you about targeting some of these individuals more specifically, those that may be the harder cases. So I think somebody from the group will be contacting you to get a little bit more active as far as helping to persuade some individuals.
Happy to do that.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? All right, Al, thank you very much. And you will be sending Penny the list. I mean, I know we can go on your website, but.
We'll send you a convenient list.
Okay, thank you. Save us the time. And maybe we can somehow divide, if there's 26 of them, we can divide them up amongst us, and whether we know the people or not, and at least make some outreach to them. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is Carlos.
Oh, hi.
Just to bring to your attention, I wasn't sure if you were taking any public comment on that, but somebody did raise their hand in the public. It's just to make you aware, but I was not sure whether or not you were taking public comment. So.
Well, we weren't making any decisions, but sure, if somebody wanted to chime in.
We've asked them to email or call. It's on-
Carlos, how come we don't have that raise your hand thing anymore?
Because you're a participant. If you were an attendee, just an attendee, you can raise your hand, but because you are a panelist, you can just speak.
All right, well, I would appreciate it if anybody that I'm seeing kind of waves, because it's sometimes hard to tell who's talking. So should we tell this person to email in?
That was how we placed it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to keep all of this going on here with so many participants, that they email or call the number on the agenda, and I can read that right now if they need that. The phone number they can call is 386-517-2000, extension 233. Janelle should pick up the phone. She'll type up an email summarizing your comments. She'll send it to me, and then I can read it into the record, and it will be maintained for the record. Or you can also email them directly to me. That's P Overstreet, the letter P OVERSTREET at cityofFlaglerBeach.com.
Okay, so if that comes through, even though we're done with this item, you can let us know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you again, Al, for your good report. Okay, now we have public comment. Penny, items that weren't on the agenda. Did we get anything?
We have, so far, we have received 6 public comments. We received one from Judy Wallace. She's asking the beaches be open back up for residents only all the time. Melanie Campbell repeated that, open the beach. Chuck Bird was questioning the opening of the golf course. Alexandra Bexley is concerned about the rally that's been talked about. Paul Harrington was talking about citizen volunteers and feels a volunteer group needs to be created that he'd be willing to volunteer for. And Kiera Fitzgerald, she is concerned about the beach access hours. She'd like them to be extended. Let me look at my email real quick, see if another one's come in. I don't have any more right now, but of course I will always let you know if we do. And we did receive one other comment, but it's for former item 9 on the agenda. I don't know where you'll be taking it. Because you didn't name what number you wanted to do the bid award when you were moving things around.
Oh, yeah, I did. I thought I did.
No,
10.
no, you had 10. You have 10 is the appointments to the EDTF, and 11 is the Corvettes. And 13 is Mr. Snyder.
I thought that we did number 13 became number 9. That number 11 became number 10.
Yes.
And then number 9 would be 11. And number 10 would be 12. And number 12 would be 13.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it now.
okay.
And Penny, just for the record, all of those emailed comments have been provided to the elected officials, correct?
Yes, sir. I emailed them to them before the meeting.
Yes, I remember reading them. And I think we will be addressing each of those at some point through the meeting. Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Bob Snyder. I was wondering if there's any way that I could move up on the agenda simply because I have 2 other conference calls that are around the corner.
Oh. I thought you and Eric must have talked about this before. Eric, this was your idea to change it. So if Mr. Snyder has other appointments,
Yeah, we can move it wherever works for Mr. Snyder.
all
Well,
right.
thank you, Eric.
Um,
I suggest we do it now then.
well, I thought you wanted to do number 9
Thank you, Rick.
first. Wait a minute. I do think that, well, first we have to do the consent agenda, which shouldn't be anything, I don't think.
Why don't we put him back where he was?
Eric,
It's more of a general business thing. It's this, we're not asking Mr. Snyder for an update. We're looking to have a conversation about moving things forward.
okay, I think number 13 should be still number 9. And then we can do,
If I was to give a suggestion under general business, I would do Larry first, so we can
Yeah.
move forward with general business. With our
that's what I'm
schedule.
saying, and then do Bob Snyder, number 10. Yes?
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I assumed you had discussed this before. I should not make assumptions. All right, so number 13 is number 9. 4A is number 10. 11 is 11 again. So yeah, 11, then the Corvette thing is 12 and the budget is 13. Got it, everybody? Penny? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So we did public comment.
you've
Now
missed,
I'm sorry, I missed one.
the award the bid for Lambert Avenue. You still haven't placed that.
Oh,
It was formerly number 9.
yes. All right, let's make that number 13. Wait a minute, did we add? Yeah, because we added one, right? All right. So Lambert Avenue will be 13. Budget report will be 14. Does that work?
Works for me.
Okay. So we move on to the consent agenda, which is approving the minutes of the regular meeting and a special meeting on April 9th, a insurance renewal proposal, and the appointment of Steve Fishbein. It's a reappointment rather of Steve Fishbein to the investment committee. Does anybody wish to pull any of those 3 items?
I'd like to pull number 7, please.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. If not, I'll look for a motion to approve items 6 and 8.
I'll make a motion that we approve items 6 and 8 on our consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Debbie? Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner, I'm so confused seeing it like this. Commissioner Bryan.
It was me.
I know, no, I just have to do a roll call and I have to figure out where you're at. Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes, to the motion.
Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Chair Mealy.
Yes. All right, Rick?
Okay. I'm just curious. When we lost 162 feet of this pier, did our rates go down? I mean, it can't be as valuable as it once was when it had 162 more feet. Plus, I feel it's not as vulnerable as it was when it stuck out there even farther than it does now. Plus, we've strengthened it way beyond what it was prior to the hurricane. So my concern is that somehow we're going to have to come up with some revenue to pay for this. It's gone up exponentially over the last couple of years, mainly because we had to add flood insurance on the pier for whatever reason. But I don't know. What are we going to have to do here? Is there some way we're paying for what, half the value now?
Carlos, could you unmute Liz, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, all righty. Well, as far as the rates increasing, we have rather a unique situation. As we said before, there's very few carriers that insure a pier like ours. We have very few to choose from. And going back to, we are only insured for 50% of the pier value right now. Back in 2016, out with, as we've said, the last few years, they valued it at the same, even though we lost all the I don't know how many feet at the end at this point, but with the repairs and the value, they valued it at the same. I know a few, back in 2018, after we took the loss, our insurance went up quite high. We've changed carriers. And it's the market that we're in right now that's showing the increases.
All right, I guess very good. It's some point during budget time or somewhere, we're going to have to talk about maybe raising the cost to go out on the pier or use the pier, because it's costing us dearly. So, okay, I was just wondering, so we're paying more than we were when we had 162 feet more, and it wasn't hardened as much as it is now. Okay, it is what it is. I mean, like you said, Liz, we only have so many options. So we as a commission will have to talk later about how to fund this.
Well, didn't we budget for a 10% increase and this is an 8% increase?
Yes, that is correct.
Because I thought 8%, considering what other companies are doing, I thought that was pretty good. Not that I like paying that kind of money for insurance, but what insurance companies have been doing is kind of outrageous. And I thought that since this was 8%, that was pretty good.
Well, we're way in the red ever since we got hit and had to start paying flood insurance on the pier.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
We definitely have to do something, I think. In my mind, I would do it.
All right. Anybody else?
I have a question. Liz, you said there are very few carriers. That means that there are other carriers out there. Have you checked with other insurance providers?
Yes, we have. We've gone to our broker. The type of wood pier that we have, I think we're down to about 4 carriers that will insure a wood pier like ours. Okay. We've already moved from one that raised us 30%, not last year, the year before, 2018, and Access, our current carrier, they maintained the same rate last year, and this year they're going up 8%. And that was the best rate we could get this year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Rick, did you?
No, I'm done. I'll make the motion that we approve item number 7 on the consent agenda.
Second.
And Penny, before you call the vote, did you receive any public comment on this item?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just checked. I have not. So Commissioner Cooley,
Yes to the motion?
Commissioner Bellheimer,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Chair Mealy.
Yes.
I almost said that. Did you catch that?
I did. All right, now let me see if I can get this straight. So the next thing is the discussion and possible action regarding the succession plan and the acting city manager. Somebody want to make a comment?
Well, Larry, I'll make a comment. We're glad you're back, and I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
I'll make a comment. I will echo Mr. Commissioner Cooley's comments and welcome back. I'm sure you're ready to go to work. We've already bricks already, so glad you're back.
Thank you.
Larry, I know you're itching to get back in the helm, and I think you got all our support. That's yet to be spoken totally, but we need you, and we hope we can get back up to speed with some things going on in town.
Yeah, I do apologize. When I put this succession plan, I was actually intended not to use it, but it worked out well. I think our public safety did a great job on filling the gap. Give no argument for them for me to come back. I do feel much better, and so I am ready to get back to work.
Okay, well, I think we're all glad about that. Linda? You're muted, Linda.
I just wanted to say that Bobby and Matt have done an amazing job above and beyond what is asked of them as, chiefs. All of a sudden now you have to run the city during this crazy time. And I know you'll continue to support Mr. Newsom throughout this, but we really just can't thank you enough for taking this on. Very well done.
Totally agree.
But Larry, yes, we are glad you're back. We need you. And, just don't be a hero. If you need some help, feel free to call on them again. I'm speaking for them. I don't know if they feel that way, but your health is number one, and we want you to be 100%.
I am. Good.
Chair, question for Drew, Chair.
Go ahead.
Drew, is there any formal action that needs taken to?
Yes. Yeah, so that's what I've been unmuting and muting, waiting for the opportunity. Yeah, I think an appropriate motion would be to relieve acting city manager Pace of the acting city manager title and restore Mr. Newsom to the full city manager position, or to the back into the acting position, but as city manager, but to relieve Mr. Pace from the acting city manager designation.
Okay. All right, Bobby, I'd like to ditto what Linda said. You've been amazing. Matt's been amazing. And I'm sure you're more than happy to have this little part of your life at an end.
Absolutely.
Okay. And Larry, very glad to have you back. So if there's no more discussion, if somebody wants to make the motion that Drew recommended.
I'll do that. I'll make the motion that we relieve acting city manager Pace of the position, and put Larry back in that chair as full authority as city manager.
I'll second.
Okay, Drew, was that good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just checking to see if you have any comments.
Okay.
I have comments, but they're not. They are not about this item.
Okay.
So with that said, Commissioner Bellhumer?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes to the motion.
Chair Mealy?
Yes.
Welcome back, Larry.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yay. All right. Now we move on to, oh, I'm sorry, Penny.
You said you wanted me to go back if they had a comment on Mr. Hadid's.
Oh, yes.
Elaine Winter has asked, what about the 6 Mile County liability that FDOT was going to cover? Has that been confirmed and closed as a concern?
And Mr. Hadid, oh, there you are. Al, you okay.
Yes, I had to unmute, but I'm sorry. My my thing went out just as Penny started to talk. So could that question be repeated?
Sure.
Could you repeat that comment?
Sure. It was from Elaine Winter, and she asked, what about the 6 Mile county liability that FDOT was going to cover? Has that been confirmed and closed as a concern?
Okay, the only thing that I believe that refers to is what we're calling the non-federal project. I don't know the question of the liability is what throws me off, but we are proceeding with developing a project from north of South 6th Street up to the retaining wall and overlap with it, and then south of South 28th down to the Volusia County line. So we are in the process of working with DOT, and by the way, also DEP, because the Department of Environmental Protection, because we want to also do Gamble Rogers State Park. So we're in the process of putting those together. The design is proceeding. As I said, the easement work is initiated. The easement, not the easement, the most, one of the really important ingredients is the lease for the 2.5 million cubic yards that the United States government is contributing to the city of Flagler Beach to place on the beach, which has got coquina sand in it, and sand that is of a totally different and superior quality than the sand that has been placed at the retaining wall. That answer it?
I'm not sure what the woman was referring to, so I don't know.
Okay, well, there you have
You
what
did
I
the
know.
best. You did the best you could.
Thank you.
Okay. And Penny, was that the only one?
Regarding report, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I also had an update. Penny, did you get that?
They
And I
have
don't
it.
know if I should,
They
I don't know
have
if I
it.
should repeat it.
They have it. I sent it to them.
Okay, the update on Topaz.
Oh, that one? I'll forward it to them right now.
Okay, just so you all know, subsequent to my presentation, I received a call. We have somebody working with the owners. They're very confident that they'll provide the easement. So I'm very pleased to say that the Topaz will not be on the list that will be sent to you.
Excellent.
Great. So we will have, I'm not going to read it now, but I guess we'll have it when we finish the meeting. Okay, so Penny, that was the only one related to the beach,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
beach project. Okay, thank you. So now we go to Mr. Snyder and Mr. Cooley. Eric, you want to start this off?
Yeah, I'll start this off. Thank you, Chair. The reason why I wanted Mr. Snyder to join us is I want to have a discussion with our group directly with the subject matter expert of our county without any outside interference, and just face to face about the next 2 weeks in the future of the city and where we stand with the virus, and also to collect data. I'm not looking for a presentation. What I want to do is to have us gain information. I want to make sure that we're doing what's best for our city and not what others think is best for our city. We are tasked with making the hard and sometimes unpopular decisions, but we need to make sure that we are making them for our city, not necessarily what's best for anything outside of our city. And in order to do that, we got to be able to collect the data and talk to the expert. And the kind of the time frame I was looking to address is the next 2 weeks. And we have two different groups of citizens and general population out there. We have two groups. We have the groups that are unsure about safety, and we have they want to stay sheltered, and it's up to us to protect them. And then we have the other groups that want everything opened up. And what I would like to do is pretty much attempt the impossible and make both groups relatively happy.
Okay.
And but in order to move forward, what we need to do is we need to have a consensus as a group before we can really get engaged in this discussion. The first thing we need to do is we need to have a consensus that is it the intent of this commission right now to open up businesses, the beach, parks, golf course, as soon as possible when it is safe, as directed by the Department of Health, which our subject matter expert is Bob Snyder. You know, I just want to make sure on public record we are stating that intent and we are being open about it to let our citizens know that we don't want this to go on any longer than possible, but we also want to make sure that our decisions are not based in sensationalism. They're fact-based, they're data-based, and they're science-based, and they're designed to protect our town and only our town. And can we get a consensus on that?
Well, before we ask for a consensus, does anybody want to make a statement or comment to what Eric's just asking about?
I like his mission. I'd really like to hear from our city manager as well. I mean, that's certainly going to affect what happens within our borders. So seems to have disappeared here off my screen.
It'll pop up.
Okay, Linda. You're muted, Linda.
I would personally like to hear from Bob Snyder and hear what his opinions are, and if he has anything to offer us, to give us any updates on what's going on and what decisions are being made. I would think that would be the wise choice before you make a decision on what to do next. And to lump everything in the same category, I don't think we really can. To say to open beaches, businesses, to open up the whole town and the parks or nothing at all, I think that's a bit confusing. So I personally would like to hear from the health department and what updates he may have for us.
Well, and just to clarify, that was not an action item. That was only to just state intent of what we plan to do and what we would like to do, you know, as a moving forward basis. It's not a tactic style. This is just saying this is what we intend to do in the future here.
Well, and a lot of things are also based on what the governor says, because we have an executive order and to have restaurants closed except for takeout and delivery, and we all want our businesses open, trust me. So I don't know, can we decide, well, we're going to go ahead and open our restaurants, or is that something that we have to wait for the executive order? So once again, I'd like to hear from Bob personally.
Yeah. Hi, commissioners and mayor. I think this would be a good time for me to chime in if you don't mind.
Go ahead. For some reason
thank
we're not seeing you, but we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much. First of all, I really do appreciate the opportunity. Here, let me see if I can get this video started. There we go.
You are.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone. I'm fond of all of you, and I'm a big fan. And you know, Commissioner Cooley, your insight and your comments, very articulate. And you know, this is a lot to swallow at one time, obviously. But I just have three comments. First of all, number one, what a great job that the city, the county, the health department, the sheriff, you know, our police chief, Matt Downey, and together us making this decision. And it was a public health focused decision to open up the beach on a restricted basis. And Larry was involved with that decision as well. And this was so well thought out with a public health perspective, you know, exercise, not socialize, to allow for the walking, the biking, the fishing, the surfing, and all of that. So my hat is off to everyone. You all did a great job. You know, I'm sure that things will change as time goes on, because we understand that our citizens are complying. They are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And it's just so wonderful to see that. Okay, we need to talk about testing. to help answer the question that was posed or the comments that were made by Commissioner Cooley. We are just beginning to really increase testing in our community. I think that you all are aware of the Daytona State College Palm Coast campus testing that started last week. We tested 119 people. Of the 119, 23 were positive for COVID. That really increased our contact tracing responsibilities at the Department of Health. This was quite something to pull off, by the way. These community testing sites are mainly being done by the larger communities in the larger counties. So here you had County Emergency Management, the Health Department, the hospital, EMS, the college, CERT volunteers, and Suzy's volunteers with Flagler County Volunteer Services that pulled this off, 30 people. So we're still testing. Tuesday, this week, we tested 79 people, and 26 of those individuals tested positive. Yesterday, we tested 43. Today, we tested 82. So this testing needs to continue for a while. A lot of talk, right, about the apex, right, reaching the top of the curve. Well, I think we've reached it from the standpoint of hospitalizations and patients that require ICU care. We've reached that apex. We figured on the date of April 16th, maybe a day later. But with respect to testing, no, we have not reached the curve, and we need to continue that because we're finding more positives in our community. We are concerned about the most vulnerable, those in nursing homes, long-term care facilities, the small mom and pop adult group homes that we have in our county, and there are a lot in Flagler Beach. So we're going around, our health department team, this is priority. We're going around to provide support with them and have been doing so since the beginning of March because we call them every other day. But now we have a little army of about 10 people, teams of 2, that are going out just to make sure that visitation policies are being adhered to, that they're screening their residents, screening staff members, doing the right thing with respect to social distancing. These are all important things that we're doing. And so that started yesterday because we are concerned about the most vulnerable. But the key thing here is testing, and that's going to continue, everyone, for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks. Advent Health Palm Coast Hospital, they're going to take a larger role in the testing responsibilities starting next Wednesday. And not until when we see that the curve with respect to positive cases has started to decline and that we're approaching 0 can we really, really start talking about opening up businesses like we did prior to COVID-19. Now, with respect to that decision, I asked that question of the Surgeon General of the state of Florida, Dr. Scott Rifkes, yesterday during a daily call that us health officers have with him and the executive team at DOH in Tallahassee. And his response to me was real succinct. He basically said, Bob, we are going to be counting on, and Linda just mentioned it, we're going to be counting on the 2 task forces that have been formed to reopen Florida, that they're supposed to have their recommendations to the governor on Friday. And he said, Bob, with respect to public health guidance from the DOH or CDC and guidance from our health officers locally in our 67 counties, we are going to wait to see and abide by the recommendations from the governor and the feedback that he gets from these task forces. The public health perspective, public health input is all going to be part of this process for reopening Florida. So I wouldn't advise that counties or cities do anything independently of what's going to be happening with this task force recommendation. So I think that's an important point to make. With respect to the health department, we're busy again involved with testing. We're busy with accessing and doing assessments on our 71 nursing homes, ALFs, adult congregate care facilities, the small mom and pop operations. for the elderly, as well as homes and group homes for persons with developmental disabilities. We want to include them as well. So we're doing that. Then, of course, contact tracing. Remember, I just said that last week when we tested at our community site, 119 folks were tested and 29% were positive. So we need to do contact tracing on every single one of the prolonged close contacts of every infected individual to make sure that they have the proper guidance for self-isolating at home, knowing which symptoms to watch for and to look for. And if they need treatment, we're right there to provide it. Our public health team, and of course, our hospital partners. So anyway, I sure hope that my brief remarks has helped, in your discussion of all of this. By the way, positive cases in Flagler are now 78. We've tested 1,094 citizens, and we still are standing at 2 deaths. And I'm happy to report that there are zero residents in long-term care nursing home facilities right now, and 0 staff members of any facility here in Flagler County. So we certainly hope that that holds, because we certainly don't want an outbreak amongst the most vulnerable in our community who are in our facilities. Thanks.
Bob, do you know when we're going to get an answer from Tallahassee? Do you know when we might get an answer? I mean, from the benefit of my commission and the mayor, I guess the committee's probably meeting tomorrow. I saw some of the names on the committee, and they are restaurant owners. I know some of them. But do you know, for the benefit of my commission and the mayor, I mean, do we know when we might get an answer? That's my first question. The second question, if I may, sorry, Madam Chair, but some of the comments that I'm is we got Publix that's open, which is a necessity, and CVS and other places. So that's one of the questions they're asking is, why can't the restaurants, as long as they follow certain rules, be open? That's really the 2 points I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I really believe that they're going to be meeting tomorrow. I mean, the governor seemed to be pretty anxious to get out a decision in a phased rolling order, like as soon as possible. So I would imagine this weekend, and I believe there's going to be a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 approach. And our restaurants and bars, relative to the stay-at-home executive order and the executive order regarding essential services and essential activities, I'm sure that is going to be amended. But I think we're all going to have to wait until when we see what the governor recommends.
Hey, Bob, I want to ask a few questions here.
Sure.
First thing is on our specific beach here in Flagler Beach.
Yes.
Based on your data, when, assuming the trend doesn't change, but let's assume that the trend stays intact so we can use the data that you have now. Based on that, when will it be safe to open the beach? And even if it's phased, if it would be to allow more things to happen, what would be your time frame on that? Because you're the boots on the ground and the subject matter expert. So we have to rely on you, because what happens at the state is very broad and we have a different scenario than other places.
Well, my opinion as public health officer, Commissioner, is that we truly need to see the effect of this additional testing that's happening, because we are still getting more positives. I would not like to see us make a decision that would be putting people at harm from a safety and health standpoint, unless we start to see the curve decrease and go downward with respect to positive cases. However, that being said, with respect to the beaches, from what we gather, people are complying. They're practicing social distancing. There is movement. People are not sunbathing, with the umbrellas out and all of that. So that has been a real positive sign. And as long as that continues, I could see a scenario whereby as a community, right, Flagler Beach, the county, Matt Downey, Police Chief Downey, the sheriff, all the people involved with the the decision, Larry, all of the people involved, you, all of you, in making a decision to restrict and to open up the beach. I mean, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with that possibly changing in the near future. But as far as anything else is concerned, I really think we need to wait for the downward curve to see evidence of that we're on that downward slope, and that the number of cases have decreased significantly, and that we are approaching zero. And, you know, so we'll see what the governor's recommendation is with respect to that. But that's my feeling as health officer.
Now, we have a policy
Eric, do you
meeting at
mind
9
if
o'clock.
I'm sorry, do you mind if I ask something on that same, before you move on? The county has 2 sets of hours, morning and night. So
Yes.
you must have felt that that was okay to do that.
Yes.
Would you be opposed? I don't know if everybody wants to do this or not, but before you go away, would you be opposed to us, in addition to the 3 hours we have in the morning, having some evening time?
I mean, I would not be opposed to it, but I think that is a decision, again, that needs to be made by all the partners. I mean, what makes our community great is that we make these decisions, we put our arms around them, we deliberate, and we make them as a community. And we make them together, you know, not just public health, but city, county, law enforcement. I think that's the key to success, because this plan that we, you know, decided upon last weekend, that we recommended to you all, was very, very well thought out with a public health perspective. And so I would like to see that continue.
Okay, Linda? You muted it again. Okay.
All right. I was going to bring this up later. You know, the county beaches are open from 6 to 8 every evening. And we made that decision, or our chiefs did, not to open from 6 to 8. However, what's happening is our residents are going down on the beach from 6 to 8, because a lot of people don't know the county beaches from, you know, where do the boundaries end? And a lot of people have to work during the day. There are some people that are still working. And, you know, they would like to have that time on the beach in the evenings. And I just had a text tonight, as well as last night, that there are people down there walking. And, you know, of course, our lifeguards are trying to tell them to, you know, go back home, or, you know, trying to be as polite as possible. And also because all the county parks, all their Barn Park and Jungle Hut, their parking is closed. So people complain about our parking being closed, but theirs is closed. So our residents, unless you live on the beach up that way or can walk to it, you can't really access the beach. So I would like to propose that we open our beaches from 6 to 8 every night, so our residents can go down there. And I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Well, that's why I brought it up. But I don't think we need to make the decision now with, Eric's point was to get information from Bob Snyder so that we could make an informed decision health-wise. And I think I heard you say that since the county was doing it, it was okay for us to do it too, if we decide to. Yes, Snyder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, let's make that decision together. You bet.
Okay. And my other question would be about the golf course. I don't know if you saw a plan that they submitted of all the healthcare things that they are doing. You know, washing down the carts, only one person on a cart, 20 feet apart from each other. It went on and on. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't, Madam Chair, I didn't.
Okay, well, they had a rather extensive plan, which is really not a plan, because to me, a plan is something you're doing in the future. This is stuff they were doing before we closed them down. And they're looking to reopen, and I know several residents have been communicating with us about reopening it. And I'm not looking for a vote on that now, and I'm just asking you if it's something you think health-wise, if they adhere to all these things they're doing, if that would be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to take a glance at it and see what they have proposed. I mean, just like being out at the beach, it's so important to get fresh air, especially, as the summer months are approaching, people want to get outside. And as long as social distancing measures are practiced to the extreme and that it's for exercise and movement. And yeah, I would just love to see what they have in mind.
And Chair, I have that list here if you'd
Yeah,
like.
I
to
have
review.
it here too. Do you want to, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. They would have all guests calling ahead for a tee time so the club or the golf course could maintain distance on the course. The pro shop would be open for check-in and restroom use, but a maximum of 2 people in the pro shop at any time. Restaurant would be closed. Beverage and snacks would be available at the pro shop, only to be served by the attendant on duty. No water available on course. All people playing would be advised to bring their own water. Single person carts are mandatory. Carts are disinfected after each use. Flags on the course are to flags on the course are to remain in place so there's no contact with the flags. They've altered the cups so that the ball can be easily retrieved without having to touch anything along the sides. Rakes have been removed from the bunkers so there's no touching of the rakes. The ball washers have been removed so there's no touching of the ball washers. Asking that all players maintain a distance of 10 feet at the tee boxes. Scorecards and pencils only handed out upon request. Driving range would be open with 10-foot spacing between all players. Range balls will be provided in single-use bags, and a trash can would be provided for disposal of all items. And then, of course, the replace handshakes with touchless greetings, and that is their effective list.
Wow. I mean, that's very comprehensive.
So you would think it would be, I'm not asking you to make us vote, but.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it from a public health perspective, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, all the social distancing measures that we talk about are being covered. If there is any opportunity in there where people are going to be, in close contact, and it doesn't sound like they will be, like maybe if you're, your golf partner, there could be times when you are close to each other. I would definitely encourage pairs or foursomes to wear masks and wash their hands a lot. That's the only thing I can think of offhand, to be honest with you.
Okay. So we could ask them to add that to their plan, and then you'd be all right.
I would, simply because the asymptomatic percentage of people with the virus, everyone, is much, much larger than we ever anticipated. Studies are still being looked at and consumed to try to get an idea as to what the percentage is, but some studies show it's up to 70 to 80%, which is remarkable. So that's why we're encouraging now, wearing of masks, scarves, or bandanas. And, if there's a pair that's golfing, I would recommend that strongly. Absolutely.
Okay,
Hey,
thank
Drew,
you.
I just had a question. Hey, Drew, did they include in there that each individual should bring their own pencil for scoring?
They did not. They said that they would provide pencils. They would provide pencils only upon request, is what they had.
Okay.
Okay. Penny?
I just forwarded.
Just so you'll know, if I may, Larry, Alfred, I know that. Are you there? Did I interrupt anybody?
Yes, you interrupted Penny.
No.
All right. He's my boss. He can do that.
Well, actually, I didn't mean to, boss or not, but I looked at what Grand Reserve is doing and some of the other local courses, and a lot of what's being proposed by our 9-hole golf course is about the same. And also the hours of operation, I would recommend from dawn to dusk, because golfers can play as long as they follow the rules. That's what Grand Reserve is doing, and they're doing a good job at it. So I know we have a policy meeting at 9 o'clock on Saturday. Briefly about it, Matt and I were going to get with Bob and get a consensus from the health department based on the plan that was submitted. But I really think that then what we'll do is go in and amend the executive order. Because I really think trying to take the golf course compared to beach is apples and oranges, not what Mr. McManus put in an email, but I hate to say it, but sometimes he is correct. And that's what we're looking at. Because we do have that policy meeting also about the beach, discussing hours of operation. Bob, did you see that 9:00 Saturday?
Yes, I did. I will be participating, Larry. Thank you.
All right, so that's, we actually scheduled that meeting because of Matt's comments this morning at the usual 10:30 meeting. Because we figured it needs to be the policy group. And I can assure you, we don't recommend anything without the buy-in from the health department.
Well, that's the purpose of this whole discussion.
Thank you, everyone.
Larry, just an update.
Where are we? Okay, Matt.
The meeting's been moved back to 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay.
Good, I can go watch cartoons.
Okay, so we're back to Eric.
Okay, I mean, we kind of mentioned it, and I just want, or we kind of answered it, but I want to, based on the current trend, when does the health department feel that the beach can open? Are we talking a week? We talking 2 weeks? And when I mean open, I mean just standard opening with closed parking, just like the counties next to us are doing. We need to be able to tell the citizens some kind of time frame other than just wait until we say otherwise. That doesn't work. And I'm not asking you to do crystal ball, but I am asking for some kind of estimate for outlooking in the future, saying based on if everybody observes social distancing and the trend of the testing and the positive cases stays as on track, at what time frame do you feel that it would be okay?
In my opinion, Commissioner, regarding the beach, if social distancing is adhered to, as it is currently laid out via the plan, from a public health perspective, nothing would stop any of you. But again, I want to encourage this to be a group decision. And obviously, it's going to be discussed, it sounds like, on Saturday at 1 now.
Absolutely.
But there is nothing that will stop any amendments that you want to make, as long as, or changes that you want to make now, as long as strict adherence to social distancing is adhered to, and that the beach is for walking, biking, exercising, not socializing. That is still very, very prominent in our public health perspectives. So as long as that is adhered to, I mean, there's nothing that would stop any tweaks or changes or modifications that the community would want to make regarding the beach. And again, it looks like it's going to be discussed on Saturday, and I'm really looking forward to that discussion at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And the next question I got is, what is our, by our, I mean, the city of Flagler Beach, what is our authority with allowing different businesses to open versus the executive order that is in place? Where do we stand with it? What can we do as a city?
Well, I think that, Commissioner, that's more of a question, I think, for Drew. So I don't mean to punt, but I really think that's more of a question.
I'll catch you, Bob. No worries. As of right now, we have no authority, Commissioner, because the executive order completely trumps us on what's open and what's closed.
Yeah, that was my feeling too. Yeah. Yeah, Drew,
okay.
that was definitely that was my feeling as well.
Okay, and last question, and Bob, this would be kind of in line with the beach, but would parks fall under that same umbrella, or do we need to handle parks separately? Because what I'm trying to do is get information to our citizens as far as just kind of things as outlook and when can we expect certain things to happen.
Yeah, with respect to parks, the issue there, from my standpoint, would be enforcement. It seems like it is. I mean, there was no significant hesitancy by the sheriff or Police Chief Downey with respect to our monitoring and surveillance of the beach decision. But with respect to parks, that might be a different story and truly might be more of a law enforcement issue more than anything, because the public health position with parks would be the same as for beaches, that we would need to stress, the social distancing, the exercise, the no socializing, camping out and hanging out in groups. That is where we would get into trouble. So it really, to me, it's more of an enforcement issue, Commissioner.
If I may chime in, one of the biggest things too is with our parks, one of the things I feel that's a concern is your ground equipment, because it would have to basically have to be cleaned consistently. And I'm not sure how staff would handle that. The tennis courts, because when you think about a park, there's so many different aspects to a park, even as small as we are. My biggest thing is right now is not even considering opening the playground as of yet.
Right.
We'll come up with a plan, because I would expect my staff over there wiping everything down because we're responsible.
Right.
Health, safety, and welfare. However, the pickleball, the tennis courts, the volleyball courts, that's something I think we're going to discuss that Saturday as well, just so we'll know. Because it's all, like Silver Lake has a walking trail. Why wouldn't you use a walking trail? That's one of the things that's open in Palm Coast and Flagler County is the walking trails. But, the tennis courts. So anyway, I do expect us to have that healthy conversation Saturday as well.
Good.
Yeah. Next question, Bob, are you okay with joining us in the future? Was this okay for you?
Oh, this was great, Commissioner. I was looking forward to the opportunity. I need to be communicating more with our friends in Flagler Beach, and I will make that as a commitment on my part. My wife and I, Commissioner, we have called Flagler Beach home now for 21 wonderful years, and it is where we hang out, and it's our place, and I would love to. Thank you. This was perfect. Thank you so much.
I have one more question before you disappear. I've had communication from a few fishermen, like why they can't sit. Because they're standing in one place, they throw the line out and they're just standing there. So why can't they sit?
From a public health perspective, I have no absolute reason why they can't sit.
Okay. Thank you. I couldn't figure one out either.
I'd want to sit too.
Okay, so that's something else we have to throw into the mix of changing the rules.
Exactly. Can I ask a question, Chair?
Sure, Debbie.
Bob, hi, Bob. I'm Debbie Phillips. And
Hi, Debbie.
Hello. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but people have been asking you this question. Is COVID-19, could it surface its ugly head come fall? Once the numbers go down and we get to zero, could it surface its ugly head again and we're going to be back to where we're at today?
Yeah, unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. And so there is a lot of talk of that, Debbie, with respect to epidemiologists, scientists, people on the president's task force, Dr. Stephen Bickle. Some of you have probably met him. He's our medical director. He's a very knowledgeable internist and a wonderful researcher. And he's just studied this to death in the last 2 months. And yeah, he fears that we're going to have a second wave in the fall. Of course, right around flu season.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's what the head of the CDC said this morning or yesterday.
Did they, Jane? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and he said also that it was in line with the flu season, so it was going to, in some ways, be worse or harder to deal with.
Yep.
Anybody else have any
comment?
Rick?
Got one more comment. Oh, go ahead, Penny.
I'm just wanting to say the public comment, so you go ahead.
The only thing I had was, can we have staff and everybody on Saturday, instead of just coming up with the next step, can we come up with the few next steps? Rather than everyone, because what's happening is the citizens, we're just asking them to wait until the next step. I would like to give them an outlook, based on current trends, and obviously it'll change, but based on current trends, say with the beach and the things that y'all are meeting on Saturday, that we say it can open up to the next phase on this date, and then on this date, we could potentially see it fully open and, do something like that.
Larry, I think that sounds like a Larry question, maybe?
That'd be Larry, the chief. That's all the folks that are meeting Saturday.
Well, Larry, we will, you'll be there, I'll be there, Police Chief Matt Downey will be there. So yeah, I mean, I have no issues with us taking that into consideration for sure. Yeah. Matt or Larry?
Larry, you're on mute.
This is a good way to hear him. Not at all.
Sorry, I was muted.
There
You got to start all over again, Larry.
Technology is a wonderful thing. Anyway, I think what we're going to try to come out of this with Matt and Bobby and I is try to come up with what I consider a critical path on where we're going, and use the best information, Bob, that we can get from you.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
One of the new things I don't want to do is give people false hope.
Right.
Because it can backfire on the commissioners, it can backfire on the mayor, and it can backfire on Larry. That's not what bothers me. We want to make sure that if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that we're very clear on that. And then where's that light at? And how soon are we going to get to it? Now, if they meet tomorrow, Bob, maybe I'm asking that just maybe you'll have a little more insight on Saturday. You think?
Yeah, we'll be watching for it, Larry. You bet. You bet.
All right.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Eric, have you had all your concerns addressed?
I did. I think Penny had some public comment.
Yes, I just want to make sure you muted again. I just wanted to make sure that it's a good way to shut
I'm good. Thank you very much. And Bob, thanks for coming on board and letting us speak directly with you and getting all this out there for the public. I think there's a lot of things that folks didn't understand, and this is important for them to hear.
Okay, you bet. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. And Commissioner, I appreciate your emphasis on data and science and trends and patterns and indicators. Thank you so much for that.
All right, Penny.
All right, just to reiterate that these comments have already been forwarded to you. I've just done it while you were speaking, and I'll summarize them. One from Paul Harrington, basically wants to know how long does it take to get test results. And then we had one from Kelly Williams. She wants to know if there's any statistics or data that indicates being on the beach is more risky than being anywhere else. If not, why not open the beaches? And then Mike Akialis, 78 active cases. He wants to know if some of those were ones from weeks ago that may not have the virus anymore, and are they being retested? Shouldn't the numbers go down because people are healing?
Okay, I can answer all three. So why don't I start with the first one regarding test results? Well, it depends. There's a supply and demand issue here. The demand for testing is so great that the larger commercial labs like Quest and LabCorp, they're still experiencing 7 to 8 days to get test results. As compared to the public health labs, Our test results are in within 24 to 48 hours because we are focused on the most serious cases, the hospital cases, people who are over the age of 65 with, chronic health conditions, those who are most at risk, the most serious ones. And then all the other labs, there's got to be 400 of them in the state of Florida, everywhere or somewhere in between. So the test results vary, and it's just because the volume is so great, and because, there is a national shortage of reagents and PPE supplies and, swabs and collection kits and tube kits for collecting the specimen. Although
He's frozen.
the shortage is getting, pardon me?
We're frozen
The
for a
second
second.
question, is there a question?
No, you were frozen for a few minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That wasn't your fault.
And then the second question was, is the beach any riskier? Well, if we practice social distancing and if we stay away from each other, and that we keep moving and use it for exercise, not socializing, no, the beach is not riskier than anything else, as long as social distancing measures are adhered to and that we comply with them while this virus is still out in our community. And then with respect to the 78 cases, that was a great question. There are people in our community who have now recovered, but we do not know specifically that number, and we are asking for it. So that was a question that we asked the State Department of Health, who tabulates all the data and statistics, is we at the local level, at the health officer level, we indeed know that our community and us, we would like to see the recovered number, the number of people that have recovered from the virus thus far. And so more to come on that, but we are asking for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Penny, anybody else?
Not on this subject.
Okay.
Well,
right.
thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. And I'd love to talk to you anytime, and we'll make a date of it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Just received another repeated comment that I already provided from Lisa Wilmot to, she wants you to open the golf courses and put it as an item on the agenda to discuss it. But this is the second, it's a repeat of one.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Jane, what's going on?
Yeah, now I'm hearing, I don't know what I'm hearing. All right, so now we are going to move on to appointments for the Economic Development Task Force. And Penny, I'll let you, I don't know who's where.
Okay, Carlos, this is where I need your help. So.
Yep, I'm here.
You've had 7 applicants apply for 4 seats whose terms have ended. I do have them alphabetically on your score sheet. I believe all of them are here for you to speak with. They were earlier. I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've lost 1, 2. We might have lost 1. I have 5 of them here. So if you want to go in alphabetical order, Carlos, if you want to pop up Mike Akialis so they can ask him some questions. 30. Mike, you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Wow, it made me rejoin when I unmuted. It changed everything. I can see everybody now. I was only seeing one.
We can see you. There you are.
There you
Hello,
are.
everybody. How you doing?
Hi.
It changed. It made me reload when I unmuted. I was only an observer before, and it made me, so sorry about the delay. Did you guys have, Mike Akialis, live on the south end of town? This celebrating the 20th year in my same house here in Flagler Beach. I know most of you know me and how much I love the town, and always trying to help any way I can. Anybody have any questions for me or anything?
Mike, I have a question. This is Debbie. What have you done on the Economic Development Task Force in the terms that you've been on?
Well, we've been, we started, jump-started a whole bunch of things. I, apologize, don't remember off the top of my head, but, from earliest, I've been on the task force now for, I want to say 15 years. When I first started, it was actually the initial citywide Wi-Fi is what we were a part of that got when Bright House before, it is what it is now. This is 15 years ago. Things were a lot different. We had a Wi-Fi broadcast that we helped get in place a long time ago. The wayfaring signs that the different businesses were able to use to help pedestrians and bicyclists get to the different places. I've had numerous suggestions about trying to raise revenue from penny taxes to potential, beach taxes, and worked with what we're doing currently is Project Create, trying to get more artistic and more different types of elements around the city to try to attract people and attract businesses, showing our vibrant city and how much we love it. And they're just giving information to different people because I've been around long enough where I've seen enough in the town to change, and kind of about it.
Mike, if I may, you guys played a role in our comp plan. You worked with Larry Torino, so don't be shy about that.
Yeah, no. I apologize. I don't remember all the things. We appreciate that. We move them on. We do what we can and move on to the next one. I don't remember all the different things we've done.
Yeah.
I know that we were heavily involved in all sorts of.
I had a question.
Downtown redevelopment.
It's more of a comment. Am I on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying something, Mark, because when I first looked at the application, the only thing on it said is I've been on EDP, on the board for 13 years. And that was all I saw. And as a new guy here, it wasn't very much. So I'm glad you're here.
No, I apologize. It was done in haste. I wasn't getting emails from Janelle that my tenure was coming up there with the renewal. So I just quickly did it in haste just to try to get it done because I wanted to get it in time.
Okay, all right.
That's why I asked the question. That's why I asked the question as well, because.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Anybody else have a question of Mike? No? Okay, Mike, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. It's good to see you all. Glad everybody's doing well.
Yeah, stay safe.
You too.
Thanks, Mike.
Carlos, the next one was Scott Chapius. I think he was on there as SP. Or no, that was Scott Price. Scott, where did he go? Did he ever?
Sorry, I just promoted Scott Price by accident. One moment, sorry.
Sorry, Scott. I can't remember if Scott Chapius ever came on.
He
was there at the very beginning.
He was on. I don't see him in the list right now, so he may have either lost connection.
Okay, so we'll skip him. We'll move Mr. Davis. He hasn't been on, I don't believe. Don Davis, he is one. Scott and Don are both members current members whose terms are expiring. I guess the next one on the list is Paul Harrington, if you'll pop him up.
Okay, let me get Paul here. All right.
Paul, unmute yourself.
I've promoted him and I've set him.
All right. Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, Paul, you there? No? Oh, there you are. Paul? We
Unmute.
don't hear, can't hear you. Nope, your mouth's moving, but nothing's coming out.
In the top right-hand corner of your picture, Paul, touch it and there should be a button that shows up that says unmute.
Yeah, it doesn't even show that he's muted. I'm not sure if he's maybe using a Bluetooth device or a headset. Wireless headset maybe is muted.
I can barely hear him.
Yeah, nothing, yeah.
If you can turn the volume on your microphone up, Paul, we can just like very faintly hear you. Try. How about on your headset? Is there a mute button on the string that's coming out of your ear? Unplug the headphones and try it.
Now,
Oh, we can hear you. There you go.
all right, you guys got to talk loud. I can't hear you.
Okay, we can hear you.
All right, well, you tell us what you want to tell us.
You got my email.
Yes, I did, but
I've been involved with Flagler Beach for how long? I go to all the environmental, economic development task force meetings, planning board meetings. I'm very interested in the community. I'm very interested in seeing how our business can relate better with our community. I think we got a lot of room, but we can improve. And I'd like to be a part of that.
okay. Anything else, Paul?
That's it.
All right, does anybody have any questions of Paul?
Paul, this is Debbie. Do you have any specifics that you can talk about? Any things that you want to bring to the task force?
I think a lot to deal with our the comp plan that we're working on, how our downtown business is structured, and how accessibility, parking, a lot of those issues I think we need to work on. We have too many businesses that are failing just because of the accessibility. We have a lot of things that like getting the farmers market back. Some of the things like we've been talking about, like the boutique hotel idea. It's going to bring a different class of tourists here that are going to spend money. People just coming to the beach to sit on the beach and go home, and for us to pick up after.
Okay, Debbie, do you have anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Paul.
No, I'm good. I know Paul.
Anybody? Okay, thank you, Paul, for being here.
Carlos, if you want to pop up Stephanie Luther.
All righty, she should be popping up.
Hi. You might want to, there you go.
Unmute Stephanie. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone.
You want to tell us why you would like to be on? I know we read your application, but would you like to talk to us?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner, Madam Chair. Good evening, commissioners and staff. Many of you don't know me, and many of you do. My husband and I live on the north end of town, just off of 20th Street. I grew up in Flagler Beach. I relocated back here about 2 years ago for our forever home, because we're not leaving. We love it here. And my dream for Rob and I was always to get back here, but I spent 25 years in Orlando. So as you can imagine, I'm so happy to be here in Flagler Beach. I just loved it as a kid, and I'm glad I'm back now. So just because many of you don't know me, Rob and I own and operate a residential painting company and a residential home renovation construction business. And it's been a great way for me to reconnect with the area and get to know the wonderful residents and all the small business owners who make Flagler Beach such an exceptional place to live. But before I joined Rob full-time in the businesses, I had a very successful career in marketing, advertising, and sales in Orlando. I led and oversaw a multi-platform media company through strategic partnerships while working closely with small businesses. Also, I worked with large corporations, the big ones, SeaWorld, Disney, Universal, you name it. I enjoyed working with all types of clients in my past, but it was my work as a marketing strategist that was the most fulfilling, and I was able to help hundreds of small business develop sales and marketing plans over the years to lead them to economic success. And, it's my passion. If you ask anyone that has met me here in Flagler Beach, any new business owner I meet, I'm always asking them, how they get started, what do they need help with, what I can do just as a local resident and another business owner to assist them. So specifically, I feel that my background in genuine care for our local businesses, I want to give back to them, all the residents and the shop owners, whether they're residents or not. I think I can bring a fresh perspective to the task force. Although I'm new and many of you don't know me, I can bring what I learned from my time when I was a kid here to my love for the area. And I'm just super excited to be here and to invigorate my hometown and our hometown. So I think, I quickly adopted the please don't make me cross the bridge mentality. So I frequented many of our local businesses on a regular basis and wonder what we could do. What would we do if they weren't right here in our backyard? And as we all know, we're going to be facing some tough times. They are going to be facing some tough times with this COVID-19 situation and being closed. So I'm more now than ever, they're going to need our help. The task force is going to need to be there and support any way they can. And I'm hoping that you'll allow me to join the task force and help with those efforts. I did attend the 2019 Citizens Academy. I'm a graduate of the Flagler Beach Citizens Academy. I had a wonderful time learning all about how the city runs. It was a huge enlightenment, and I'm a big proponent to support that in the community. And I also am now a member of the Women's Club in Flagler. So I'm excited about participating and giving back to the community and through the Women's Club. So if there's any questions you have of me, please, I look forward to answering anything you have.
Anybody have any questions of Stephanie? I guess you did a good job. Nobody has any questions.
You did. I'd just like to say welcome back to Flagler Beach.
Thank you.
And I totally understand your happiness of being back here after living in Orlando for that period of time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And it's ironic. I worked at Jose Gaspar as a kid. You all know Jose Gaspar's gift shop. I worked there from the time I was 12 to I was best friends with the owner's daughter until I was in my early 20s until I left Orlando.
Oh. Okay.
Well, you're obviously very excited about the city having quickly entered and completed the Citizens Academy as well. So look forward to seeing you around.
And I'll say she was a star student.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, nobody else has anything. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Thanks, Steph.
And then we have Scott Price.
Yes, ma'am. Carlos.
All right, we now have two Scott Price here, so I'm going to try to see which one it is.
The echo.
Let's try this one. If this doesn't work, I'll try the other one. No, okay, so let me try the other one.
If you need to, unplug those radio chargers.
Which one?
There we go.
You're muted.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. A little bit of technical difficulty. Excuse me for that. My name is Scott Price, Flagler Beach resident, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to try to be an added value to the city. So I think, it's nice to see that there's so many people here with so much talent that are interested in this position. I think we all have a unique perspective of how and what we see the city defined as. My real objective is, if I could be part of the community or part of the task force, would be to just develop a plan that we work towards that had possibly a larger scale vision that, the community could work to, as opposed to maybe just individual tasks. Of course, individual tasks are going to get us to that point, but I own multiple businesses and are very familiar with what it takes to survive in the economy, and I employ a number of different people, and I think I'd be an added value to the city. Can I answer any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Scott? No?
None?
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next.
And Kathy Wilcox.
Carlos.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, Mike's back.
Look like Kathy.
We had Kathy first. Oh, there's a box. There we go.
Okay. So Stephanie set the bar high there. My name is Kathy Wilcox. I live on South Central Avenue. My husband and I have lived here in Flagler Beach for almost 10 years. And it's interesting, when Stephanie and I, we do know each other, and when we first met, we discovered that we had crossed paths in the Orlando area, because I too have a background in marketing and advertising, and dealt with a lot of the same clients that she did. And not to upstage her, but I was a graduate of the inaugural class. So, but seriously, I'm also the director of the Flagler Beach Historical Museum. And the museum is such an integral part of our community, and part of our mission statement is to preserve the rich history of Flagler Beach for future generations. And the economic development decisions that we make today will determine what tomorrow's history is for these people in the future. And I would like to continue to be a part of that process, as it does have a direct impact, on the museum, as well as all of our businesses here in Flagler Beach. I just completed my 2 years on the committee, and it was very enlightening. There's a lot of things that I went in thinking that we were going to be able to do, and then found that we were not able to do, or it was more of a process. So I would appreciate the opportunity to continue to remain on that board and to continue with the projects that we have started, and then to, of course, develop new projects that will help all of our businesses during this difficult time.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Does anybody have any questions of Kathy? Okay, everybody's presenting themselves so well that nobody has any questions. I think it's great that we had 7 people apply. I think that's really great. Do we take public comment on this?
You have received no comments on this.
Okay. So now we vote on that email that you sent us, and then we email that back to you.
You can do it on the paper packet I delivered to you. You can do it electronically through the email. If you use the email, you can do that. Or like I said, the paper, you can fill it out and take a picture with your smartphone and email me that. Either way. But as soon as you guys vote, if you're all done voting, you can move on to the next item. I'll collect them through the email and tabulate them and let you know who the person is.
Okay, can I ask a question? Carlos, if I don't have access to my email on my phone, can I create a new window that nobody sees when I'm emailing Penny?
Yes, Sam, as long as you don't click anything that says share window, you should be fine.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
I can't write on that. I thought I would be able to write on that. With us moving everything around here, I gotta find it. Here we go.
It won't let me open a window. Can I send it from another email address to Penny? Can I send it from my promote Flagler? Okay, I'll do that right now. Okay, Penny, I just sent you mine.
Thank you.
Did you get mine, Jane?
So far I have Rick's and Eric's, and I'm responding to Commissioner Bryan right now. Yes, Jane, I have yours.
Okay, good.
Penny, did you get mine?
I have yours, Linda. I have Rick's. I have Eric's. Hold on. Okay, Debbie.
Yeah.
I need you to vote on all of them.
Oh.
1 through 7, please.
Sorry.
Penny, did you get mine?
I did, and I responded back to you I needed you to vote 1 through 7 on all of them. So if you could redo that.
Oh, I only voted 1 through 4.
Jane, you know better.
I forgot.
I don't feel so bad then.
The teacher? Ooh. Yeah, redo yours, Jane.
Yeah, I am.
I thought I did.
No, sir, you voted gave some 2s. I need you to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
All right, I redid it.
It just came in. All right, I have yours, Jane.
Okay.
1 second. Okay, sending it to you.
Thank you.
Just send Penny.
Thank you. All right, Jane, you can go.
I can go on.
Yeah,
You'll have the results for us when we get to commission comments, I guess.
correct. So now you're going to former number 10, which is the request for co-sponsorship. Carlos, could you pull up Mr. Wolf, please? Steve Wolf?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You had a thing with your audio where it went kind of funny and I didn't quite catch that.
We're going on to former item 10 on the agenda. Could
Okay.
you, Steve Wolf?
Yes. And he should be joining. There we go. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself, and if you'd like, turn on your video.
Okay, does everyone have me now?
Yep.
I do. If you want me to start, Jane, I
Yes,
know.
please. Yes.
This is the oh, my brain just stopped. I'm sorry. I was adding. This special event the Corvette Club has put on for several years within our city. They do a wonderful event. I have no qualms with their cleanliness or their anything. This year they're asking to use the commission room again. They are asking to use the bathrooms in the front for their club members only, as they did last year. And they're requesting tables and chairs as they've done in previous years. And the road closure, which Chief Downey and Chief Pace have already reviewed and have no issues with it. I am asking that they place another handicap and at least a handicap and preferably a regular porta potty out as well for the attendees to use. And I say it every year, they're the only group that uses this room. I don't agree with it, but they don't make a mess in here or anything. It's more of a security issue for me because it's an older building and we don't have, I can pop the locks with my ID card. Let's put it that way.
I wouldn't tell the world that. Now that you just did.
Well, we have an alarm. They have to get in from, I'm talking about interior, not exterior doors.
Oh.
Interior.
Okay. Okay, comments from anybody?
I do, Jane. I participated in the club for a number of years, and I see there's someone already there, and he's probably going to cover what I was going to.
Well, it can you're very difficult to understand. I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay. I said I participated in the club functions for the last 10 years, and I spoke to Mr. Wolf last night. The only thing that he asked that we added was that they wanted to have access to the commissioner's chambers on Friday for storage of some items that they have.
Yeah, that's a common thing they usually do. That's not, you know.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Hey, may I chime in? This is Larry.
Yes, hi, Larry.
Hey, just a couple of things I experienced last year. One is I will ask that the Corvette Club does allow that access for the Turtle Patrol. There was an issue last year and I actually saw it myself. I just want to make sure they have access to be able to enter and leave that parking lot to do what they're supposed to do. I know there was a conversation last year where the Corvette Club said, well, this is our parking lot. And quite frankly, we still have to use that parking lot, just on those two parking spaces. I walked up to City Hall, so I didn't need a parking space. But I just want to make sure that, you guys did a great job. And like Penny said, you do a great job. I just want to make sure those two parking spaces on that east end that we do allow for the other business that has to take place, just to allow them to be able to use it.
Okay, Steve, you all right with that?
Oh, it was kind of garbled when he was being specific. So could I hear the spaces he's referring to again?
He was talking about the Turtle Patrol has parking area in the 3rd Street parking lot. The lot that can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, the lot where your club puts your cars.
Okay, we park the club cars, when we post about 10 or 12 of our own cars, we put them in the lot next to the museum.
Right. That's the lot he's talking about. There's a white shed there that holds the equipment for the Turtle Patrol. And they need to maintain access to that. So last year, Larry's saying that you blocked that off and that he does not want that to happen this year.
Okay, did we block that off from the museum side or from the 2nd Street side?
3rd Street.
3rd Street.
Well,
I'll see to it. I'll coordinate with Penny. We'll see to it.
Correct.
Great.
Okay, Larry, that was your only issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anybody else?
No, that's
It's a great event. It's a great event. I hope I can be a judge again this year.
I appreciate that. And that's probably the last year I'll come before you, and I'll be done being president at the end of this year.
Someone else. Okay. So we're being asked to co-sponsor to pay some of the fees. Penny said the estimated fees were $915 with $288 going directly to the police. And then the remaining $627 coming from the going to the general fund. So last year, I believe, Penny, the amount we co-sponsored last year Was that all of the amount minus the police?
Steve, do you remember, was it, or was there a balance due after that? I think there was a balance due.
I think all you charged us for was the use of your large tent.
Right, but you're not using that this year.
Oh,
So
we do use that. Did I not include that in the package?
I did not see it. I looked for it, but let me. On the application, it says just the 4/10. I didn't, let's see, Corvette Suite, percent Premier. Judge event Sunday, City Hall, folding tables, chairs. No, I don't see the tent on this part where you listed everything else.
My mistake. Really would like to use that in conjunction with our 4 canopies as well, just like last year.
All right, so that just, the tent rental, I think is $75. That it increases the cost, and then the admin percentage on top of that. So you figure what? 90, another $95, $96 to that amount of 627.
So consider it maybe even 700.
There's actually labor too for staff putting it up and taking it down. So no, no, it would probably jack it up another $150 or so, 160, just off the top of my head, trying to remember.
What if it remains up from a previous event just before ours?
We don't use the tent for First Friday anymore.
Okay.
They have a.
How about if we just make a motion that we sponsor them to the same degree that we did last year for the same things
For the same.
that we did last year.
Well, it was a dollar amount, sir, so.
So do you want, if Penny's saying it might be another 150 on top of the 627? So
Yeah.
that would be 777. You want to do a not to exceed amount? Because she wasn't sure that was the right amount.
Right, that's what I'm thinking we ought to do. Make sure that we cover the same that we did last year for them. So not to exceed what, Penny?
I mean, I would, if you want to sponsor the amount you did last year, the salaries the employees did get, so the labor will go up based on the salaries. So you co-sponsored in the amount of $578.29 last year. If you want to round that to 590, or it's up to you. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, that's why I said that we would sponsor the same things that we did. If the cost went up a little bit, then the cost went up a little bit.
Okay. So you want to sponsor in the amount of $578.29 like you did last year?
No, he's saying the same services, not the same dollar amount. I think that's what he's saying.
You based it on a dollar amount last year, Marshall. I subtracted from, because I had filled out an estimate fee sheet, which I didn't do this year. So I just put it in here, and Marshall took a portion of the amount due. They did have to pay some extra last year. There's a few things that brought their bill down afterwards, like they didn't have as many vendors. So, I mean, it's hard giving you a projection till it actually happens.
That's why I was thinking a not to exceed might work better.
Well, you guys give me the number. You can do that. Yes.
Can you just do $600? And if it's less than that, then it's less than.
Well, if I might say, I believe the city's covered everything for us in the past, with the exception of the tent.
Well, I don't think we paid the police either.
No,
Yeah,
never.
the police do.
I'll make a
So-
motion that we approve their application with a not to exceed number of $600.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
And then Penny will figure out, so, you know, whatever it ends up being.
Okay, let me see if you had any public comments before I. No public comments were submitted for that. Okay, and then we go to Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Chair Mealy.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve. Matt and I will be working with you definitely when it gets closer to the event.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
All right. Next thing, we're up to the Lambert Avenue Drainage Project.
Correct. So Fred and Fred did John Zimbal. I sent him the email link, I believe. Did you want him up or?
Yes, Penny. I don't know if he's here or if he's available, but I'm here. I can probably answer all the questions, I believe.
Okay.
All right, Fred, do you want to give us an overview? I know we've been through this project explanation before, but it was quite a while ago.
Well, as you know, like we all know, Lambert Avenue is a beautiful street. along
With
the river.
wonderful people living on it.
There's some wonderful people living there. We've been planning this project for over 2 years, I would say. We didn't have money to go forward last year due to the fact that I did not want to do half the street. I wanted to do both sides of the street. We were short on funds, so we put it off till this year. We've got shaping the swales or the ditches up to basically address 500. There's a major drainage outlet into the river on the east side, but we're basically going to be reshaping the swales and resodding everything as we go. And the other exciting part about it is, including in the contract, is cleaning out all the storm pipes to the very north end of the road. And I plan to do that first. And then, as you know, a lot of those old pipes are going to possibly collapse. So we've got money in the budget to replace the storm pipes and have to reconstruct sections of the driveway. So in order to do that, but it's going to be a good improvement to make sure the water does properly drain at the south end, as well as I'm optimistically hoping that this will take care of the majority of the issues on the north end of the project as well, to the very north end. And we've applied for a grant. Well, we've got plans for a grant application through the county to possibly help fund the future phases at the north end, but I'm optimistically hoping we may not need to do that. We'll have to find out after we've evaluated these pipes and replaced sections of these pipes and cleaned out all the pipes. As you know, Jane, our commission chairman, a lot of these pipes are filled up with dirt, and you can visibly see the ends of them are falling apart. They're corrugated metal pipes that are falling apart. So this is a good project for the city. We've been planning it for over 2 years. We've got it engineered very well by Zahn Engineering. John wasn't here tonight, but a real sharp fellow in Ormond Beach put this together. It's within budget and we have money available.
Okay. Does it, not this phase, but a later phase, does it include the county part of Lambert?
we're basically treating, hopefully all you commissioners know, there are some properties along the route that are actually in the county. There is actually an agreement that basically states that the city of Flagler Beach is responsible for taking care of the right of way, which is what we've been doing. And you just can't take care of pieces of a street. You got to take care of the whole street.
Well, yeah, I agree. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
That's a good point. We have utilities running up and down water and sewer. We serve everyone on Lambert Avenue, and this will hopefully be a nice improvement to the area.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
I do, Jane.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Brad, how are you planning on contacting all the residents on Lambert to make sure that they're all aware of what's going on?
Well, that's a good question. It is written in the commission memo, but obviously the residents that are listening and would want to know as well. We're going to have a community meeting, some way, shape, or form. I've spoken to the city manager about that. We both agreed that we're not going to be starting this project till at least July, or certainly until Central Avenue is completed. I only want one drainage project going on at one time. And so Larry and I have already gone over all that. We've actually talked to to Client Construction, who won the bid this morning, Scott Sowers, and he agrees that we probably won't be starting this project till July. We do want to award the bid, so we have that in our pocket, and the contractor's not hanging out there.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Deborah.
No, I just have a quick question, just for my own knowledge. Fred, when we award a bid, is the contract available to all residents on our website? Or if not, is that something that they can ask for to review?
They need to ask me.
You have to ask, oh, Penny, okay. So it's not readily available, but if they ask, they can look at
Correct.
it. Okay, that was my question, thank you.
Okay, Rick?
Our city clerk does an outstanding job of advertising this publicly, and she provides all information that residents request.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, you've been patient. Go ahead.
Yeah, my biggest concern after seeing some of these projects go a little sour is oversight. We're going to have a in-town project manager or somebody keeping an eye on this project as it proceeds.
Currently, we've got a purchase order with John Zemball, who designed it, as to oversee the construction management of the project. I haven't actually gone over with the city manager what type of inspection, day-to-day inspection we want to do on the project, but we definitely have an engineer, professional engineer that designed the project, agreeing to oversee the construction management of the project. So that is a good point.
Hey, Fred, if you don't mind, let me jump in here.
Thank you, Larry.
Commissioner, let's go ahead and cut to the chase. And because it'll help ease the mind of all the commissioners. We are aware about the swell project and how that project went south on us. The contractor has since been fired. So one of the reasons we also met with Scott with Client Construction is we're asking, because he was on that bid package as well. So we're probably going to ask Scott to come back and help us clean up that mess first. So to be clear on this, before we move over to Lambert, we're going to clean up this mess. I accept responsibility for that. We're going to clean up that mess, get it reimbursed by St. John's, the swell project. And we really are looking at Scott, which we can do under procurement law because they were on the bid package. And then we issue a notice to proceed. So what you're doing tonight that you may or may not know, you're just selecting a contractor. But they're very clear, we're not going to issue a notice to proceed on Lambert until we clean up this mess. So once this other project is done, then we'll move over to Lambert. And hopefully it'll be the same contractor. Scott's local. You know, everybody probably knows Scott and his firm. I look forward to him coming in and helping us out on the past fiasco, then moving over to Lambert. Jane, you know Scott very well.
Yeah.
And so to kind of answer some of those questions I think we're dancing around is, we're going to clean up our mess first, then we're going to Lambert.
Okay, anybody else? I did have a question. Fred, you have the package in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in Exhibit D, and I think it's just that I don't know how to read this correctly. If you could get to Exhibit D.
Yes. I've got, are you looking at the bid tabulation?
No, it says form of,
Contract.
I'm sorry, Penny?
I was telling Fred you're looking at the contract.
Yeah, I'm
I
looking at the
contract. I don't have the contract with me. I'm sorry.
I did the contract drain, so what do you, what do you know?
Okay. On Exhibit D, it says scope of work, then it says additional services, items to be bid for construction which are not detailed in the plan. Then it has alternate 1 and exceptions. So when I see exceptions, it means to me you're not doing these things, but I thought that's what the project was about. So it says exceptions, items detailed in the plans which are not to be bid for construction with this.
Actually, Fred, this is the one part that John did add in. So I did all of the, pretty much all the contract, Jane, except for this one exhibit that John Zimbal did.
Is it referring to the additional storm pipe and driveway construction item 1 and 4 that we're awarding?
It may be, it may also be referring to the other 2 phases. So I'm not sure which
All
one.
right, I can read to you what it says, Fred.
Yeah.
Items detailed in the plans which are not to be bid for construction with this phase of improvements. Number 1, demolition, removal, or modification of any driveway, culvert, or other existing stormwater infrastructure. Number 2, installation of any proposed culvert, end wall, or other stormwater infrastructure. So I read that to say we're not doing those things, but I thought that's what the project's about.
Well, we're only going to pay them for what specifically is outlined in the bid tabulation, and I think it's just a cover your butt comment that we're not going to require them to do things that hasn't been agreed to do. We were pretty clear on the itemization of all the bid items. There is, that's the best explanation I think I can give you. There is a lump sum amount, and I think it's alternate 4, is to cover incidentals. As I mentioned, the pipes that are going to collapse, and we're going to need to go in there and replace some pipes and replace some driveway. And I think he was just making it clear that those types of items really are not included. Any incidental items.
Who's going to do those things?
Well, if there are incidental items additional, we'll have to cover it with the change order.
And Jane, it does address that in addendum number 1, specifically like the pipe breakage. And it says alternates have been provided to the extent the limits of the project or replace unexpected pipe failures within the project scope as the budget allows. So.
Okay.
There's gonna be surprises when we start cleaning these pipes. We're gonna find things that there's no way you can find until we clean these pipes out and try to clear the drainage areas.
And basically, Jane, what I think happened was the bid came in lower than what was projected. So they have extra money to do these clean outs that Fred's talking about. And so the budgeted amount that was budgeted for the project and the bid came lower. So they're hoping to do this extra work with that money that's left over from that.
Okay.
Jane, Madam Chairman, we got an outstanding price to clean out those pipes. I was just very happy to see that unit price for cleaning those pipes, so we can get in there and clean those pipes. I was afraid it was gonna be a whole lot more than that, but that's a real good bargain if you look at that alternate.
Okay, it just, I'm not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I couldn't imagine how you would do this without cleaning out the pipes.
Well, we were just the focusing on it was on the south end, but obviously I know there's issues all the way to the north end. So I stuck it on there in case we'd have money to do it. And as it turned out, we got a great price to clean out those pipes. And we also, planning ahead, we included replacing some pipes and driveways because quite honestly, our crews were afraid when they cleaned those pipes are going to collapse, which some of them probably will.
Some of them will, yeah. Okay, Fred, thank you. And Penny, thank you.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Fred, on 31-1, it has testing. The contractor will furnish and pay for services qualified independent testing laboratory. Specifically, what is the testing for?
You didn't come across real clear. Could you?
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
I said on 31-1, it calls for testing. What is the testing itself? What are you testing for?
Is it a general comment about testing?
It says the contractor will furnish and pay for the services of a qualified independent testing laboratory.
Okay. Well, one test would be the concrete for the driveways.
Okay.
I think that's I think that's basically it. I think that's the only material. The pipe, we're going to make them provide specifications that we have good storm pipe that we put in. But I think the only testing involved would be the concrete driveway replacements.
Okay, it wasn't specific, so I was wondering what they would be testing for.
Yeah, that's a good example of one of the tests that would be required.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Penny?
Just to let you know, you did receive public comment specific to this project. That was from Richard Clemens. I did email that to you earlier.
Yes.
Checking to see, and no other comments were received. And Mr. Clemens was, to summarize, was just expressing his disdain for the south drainage project.
Right. Okay. So I guess we're ready for a motion. Somebody.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Lambert Avenue, what is it called? Oh, that's back on number 9. The Lambert Avenue drainage improvements, phase 1.
Is that the award of the bid to SC Klein Construction? Rick, is that part of your motion to award the bid to SC Klein Construction in the amount of $253,321 or $253,321.56?
Yes, as written in agenda item number 9.
I'll second it.
All right, one more time for public comment. No other public comments. So let's start over. Commissioner Bryan.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley.
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Bellhumeur.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Chair Mealy.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commission, for your support. Appreciate it.
Okay, now we are up to Kathleen and her quarterly budget report.
Oh, good evening. It's time for the exciting part of the show tonight. It's the quarterly budget report, and this is as of March 31st. So believe it or not, we're already 50% through our fiscal year, which ends on 9/30/2020. I'm going to go through similar as I've done in the past. I'm just going to briefly go over each fund, and I'll kind of pause if you have a question on a specific fund. So I'm going to start with the general fund. So your margin, when you're looking at this report, is the percent a year being 50%. And if you look at our top revenues as a whole, we are at 60, we've collected 65% of our revenues. And that is due mainly to the fact that the majority of our ad valorem taxes have been received. Our expenses are at 36%. We have, a lag, because you're paying for our bills in March that you accrued in February. So, but I would say it's running at a good keel right there. The only department that was past 50% was the planning and zoning. And that has to do with the payment for the land development rewrites. That was kind of heavy ended on that particular department. So looking at as of March 31st, we had collected $4.4 million in revenues, and we has expended 2.7 million. So we're ahead by 1.7 at the moment. So was there any questions on the general fund? Okay. Next up is our CRA fund, which is our community redevelopment agency, also a governmental fund, which, as you all are aware of, is the revenues are from the TIF collection, the tax increment funding from property values, the increase of property values during the, as compared to what it started out with in 2001. So we've collected all of our revenues, which came out to $309,000 for the year. We've had very little expense there, mainly because we haven't paid our debt. Our debt's due, I believe, it's April and October that we pay the debt. So we have not seen that yet. So we're looking pretty good in the CRA fund. We have $258,000 to the good there. Questions on CRA?
Yes.
Yes.
We have quite a bit more to spend, don't we, Larry, on like the parking lot up there and the Wickline building? Is that coming? That's coming out of CRA, right?
Yes, that is coming out of the CRA fund. We are paying, we were using the CRA funds for that. I think I'll hit on that when I get to the last page, when I talk about all the cash flow. So a lot of this stuff I kind of come back to at the end. I believe that we had budgeted $75,000, as I recollect, for parking, and I think the project was 120, so we had to amend the budget by $45,000. I'm trying to remember, it doesn't appear that happened during the month of March. You might have, I don't see it in there anyways. I can get back, if you need any more information on that, I can provide that in an email if anybody would like to hear that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we're going to stay within our budget, or if we're going to have another amendment.
Oh, well, that I'm not sure of, since I'm not running the project, but I believe that everything's going okay there.
I'll ask Larry later.
Okay, yeah. I mean, as far as I know, I've not seen anything come across about change orders on that project. And if there
Kathleen, I know the paving was done today, and best of my knowledge, it's within budget.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'm going to move on to the Building Code Inspection Fund, which is our, of course, upholding. It's a fund that's still governmental fund, but we segregate it to show the costs against the costs of running the inspection fund against the permit fees that we collect. And as you can see, we originally budgeted $203,000 in revenue, and we're at 128, so we're doing fairly well. The expenses are staying within budget. We're actually kind of low, $117,000. I'm sorry, I can't recall what it is that's so expensive in the, it was because we are getting, sorry, when this slipped my mind there. I think because we were getting a new vehicle for the new building inspector, but I don't believe that we are doing that now. I think things have changed out. Sorry, I will get back and write that in an email to everybody. I forgot what that one was. I was kind of focused on the peer fund, which is our next topic. And the peer fund, we made the peer fund into an enterprise fund. It used to kind of be housed in our general fund. But years ago, we brought it out so that we can kind of keep a better eye on how the revenues are and the expenses related are taking care, are comparing to each other. For this year, well, and let me just explain on the actual revenue part, we have charges for services. Those are all the fees that we collect for peer walkouts and the bait shop. We also have a grant for the TDC grant for $150,000, which is for the A-frame repairs. And then the miscellaneous revenue, the $128,000, that's the money that we collect in rent from the Funky Pelican and the radio station. So as you can see, our revenues for the bait shop and pier shop were a little bit below the 50% mark at March 31st. And of course, our pier and being closed now, we are, where our revenues are going to not be building up. But then again, our expenses will probably not be as high on some things, as we're not going to be, of course, buying any bait, that sort of thing right now. But when you look at the overall picture here, our expenses, we collected $180,000 and our expenses are $315,000 due largely to the insurance, with the insurance being very high. So we're at right now at a deficit of $128,000. I'm going to touch on that again when I get to the end and talk about the cash flows. Are there any questions on the pier? All right, I'm going to move on to the utility fund. Utility fund is looking, we're just shy of the 50% mark on most of our is, which is okay because we bill in arrears, so there's going to be a little bit of an accrual towards the end of the year. So we're at 2.3 million in collected revenues, and in expenses we've spent 1.9 million. We paid the first payment. We have two payments for the SRF loan for the water plant, and we have paid the first one, which is 50% of it, so that kind of is a good scale there. I do that little box down there for base fees. And so down there, I'm showing the base fees that we've collected, meaning what's been paid, billed actually, compared to what we spent on capital and debt service. And I actually forgot to include the debt service. So that would make that number about 744,000 that we spent, and drop the income down to the leftover base fees down to 500. It was just something we kind of added to the report to kind of keep an eye, because we are always when we have to increase rates, we're talking about how the base fees are increased because we need them to support the structures and the plants, and the flows also would offset the operations. So right now we have a gain of $367,000 in the utility fund. I'm going to move along to sanitation. Sanitation is running at a pretty even keel, 623,000 in revenues and 544,000 in expenses. So nothing really to talk about there. Stormwater fund, we're lagging a little bit on the collection of the grant because, we're paying the contractors up front and then, submitting for reimbursement. We just submitted for March reimbursement, and that was about $100,000 that we'll be getting back. So that will kind of offset the low, if you look at the percentage of revenue received, we're at 27%. That's due to the grant. And that is the end of the funds. The last page, I just kind of compare everybody together as a whole. So as a whole, the city is, we're at $2.3 million of revenues over expenses. So the last page, I will try to explain briefly here. This is a report that we've done for years. It's kind of what I do at the top. I'll just talk about each section for our newer commissioners. So at the top, we show all, this is the cash balances and all our operating accounts and our investments as of March 31st. And then I also kind of add if there's any grant money that's going to be an inflow to kind of, you know, because we know we're going to get that money. There's another line in there where I average out what's left in the budget for operations and just kind of make a monthly estimate as to what that would be. So when we get down to the end of it, it shows your total cash and investments kind of as they stand for each fund. This is all the money, all the different restricted funds and everything together. The next section is where I have the encumbrances, which is like things we're going to have to pay, the big ticket items like the capital, the debt service, as well as any projects that we had budgeted. And it's not saying that we will get to all of them. I kind of do this as a, you know, if we got all the money that we said we were going to collect in budgeting, and then we did every single project that we were going to do, and I base it against the cash that we have available to cover that stuff. So that section is showing all the projects and all the debt service. The next one, I'm taking out all the different reserves that we have and restricted funds. So when you get down to the end of it, what I'm trying to show at the very end of this is what is actually cash wise on March 31st, not restricted for anything, kind of what we look would be the unrestricted cash fund balance. So when I do all that, sorry, this is a lot at 9:21, but when I do all that, I look at the line that I'm always focused on is the unencumbered, unrestricted funds. Also, several city managers would call that the rainy day fund, if that rings any bells for anybody. So our general fund, as you can see, we have $7.8 million in cash, and we have unrestricted funds. We have $4.5 million. So that's very, very healthy. Move over to the building code. We're running, you know, pretty well. We don't want to have a huge reserve in our building code because that means our fees are too high. So that's doing fine. Now we get to the sad news of the pier, which, you know, if you look at their actual operating accounts, it's negative right now. In that encumbrance section, there's a number, it's the interfund loan. That is the money that I have on the books right now that the general fund has actually had to move over to the pier fund for different things that we have amended the budget for along the way. So when you get down there to the very bottom and you see that the unencumbered, unrestricted cash is $284,000 into the bad, you would offset that by the 221. So we're still looking though as the general fund. If the year was over today, the general fund would probably have to put in another $60,000 to balance. Remember how we budgeted beginning of the year and we said it was like 40, we did like 40,000. So now we're kind of at 60, plus we have that loan of 221,000 in there. So we do, you know, when we get to that part, you know, we get to budget, and I know Mr. Newsom's already getting us going on budget. I'm like, please, I'm still working on audit, but you know, when we get to that, we're going to address a lot of issues, and I'm sure Mr. Newsom and I will be talking about some of the things that we can do now, you know, with the pier being closed. Utility fund. This is the one I'm just going to hit it briefly, but if you look, you know, it looks very healthy when you look up there and you see we have $8.5 million in cash. Then you drop down to the section of the encumbrances. Well, we have $3.8 million in debt service and capital fund. But the part that's really scary about the utility fund is that we have $4.6 million that's restricted in many different ways, mostly our sewer and water impact fees, which on the projects that we're working on, we are working to use those funds. I know our city engineer, Mr. Griffin there, is working with the different designers, design elements of it, and making sure that it's clearly written in there about, you know, how a project that's going to be built is definitely a result of the impact of the community on the structure. And that will help us use some of that restricted, especially the sewer impact on our wastewater treatment plant. But if you look at right now, this is about the lowest I've ever seen that unencumbered. It's at less than $100,000. And you got to remember too, this is just a day in time, as they tell you in accounting. Things change each day, but I do always get worried when I see that unencumbered balance getting that low, because that's the money that isn't restricted for anything. Okay, and now just, you know, see, you can look at the sanitation, stormwater, CRA, they're all pretty well. So with that, I will ask you if you have any questions. And I'll also put out there, if you do have questions, you can always send email to me or call me. I'm working at home, but you can reach me. So, and I'm available to talk to you, especially for Commissioner Bryan and Commissioner Phillips. Okay, thank you.
Well, Kathleen, I did have a question, not on your report.
Okay.
Have people been calling in about their water bills that they're not able to pay them?
Oh, I was going to touch on, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to touch on two things related to our COVID situation right now. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, excuse me, is we've been tracking all our expenses and all our overtime related to the COVID crisis, so that we can pull them out, of course, for hopefully reimbursement. And right now, through our payroll ended on April 18th. So from about, I think it's been about 2.5 payrolls, which were paid bi-weekly. We have accrued $68,000, almost $69,000 in overtime, and we've spent $55,000 not spent. We have either open purchase orders or have spent money for operational supplies. So the total cost right now on just this COVID thing operationally, $123,000. That's how much we've spent as a city. That's not budgeted. Regular salary, they're already budgeted, even though the people have probably been working, 30, 40 hours a week just on things related to COVID. I know me, myself, I'm taken away from my regular duties, just, trying to deal with the things that, have come up because of the COVID, so that's the one part I wanted to bring up. The other part, I looked back at, we stopped doing shutoffs in March, and I looked back at the history of shutoffs to see, customer wise and dollar figure wise, how many, what an average report looked like before we decided to not do the fees and not to shut off. So usually we have about 100 residents on the shut off, meaning that they are 2 months behind on their bill. So that's how we operate here in the city of Flagler Beach. And dollar wise, the average is about $18,400. So I asked Maria today when she ran the report, and we have 150 people that if we were doing shut off would be on the list. That means generally what happens is we do 100 shut off notices, which now we don't do that where we're hanging them up. We just have the direct calling to remind them to pay their bills. So we generally do 100 notices, and then I would say probably 90% of the people make that minimum payment so they don't get shut off. All right, but now we have 150 people on there, and that dollar figure is $48,000.
Kathy, I want to ask a quick question since you brought that up. I know the last board meeting, we talked about basically trying to work with the businesses and the residents about no late fees. Something I think that has to be discussed, and whether we discuss it at this meeting or at another meeting. I mean, to me, because we don't know how this whole situation is going to play out, but we also know that people are going to take advantage of what we're trying to do and what you're trying to do as a commission, Mayor, is we're trying to give them relief, but some people are going to take advantage of it. My question would be, is after 90 days for a certain account, do they go back to paying late fees? Not for the last 3 months, but from that point forward, do we put them back on late fees? And that's probably more of a political question than more of a practical question,
right?
Because it helps us, for 90 days saying, okay, no late fee charge. which that's money that the city will not occur.
Mhm.
But after 90 days, you know, if you don't have, if you're not making any effort to try to resolve this, I mean, how long do we allow an individual? And again, you always look at where people try to abuse the system and the good deeds by this commission and the people that actually really need the good deeds. So not to add more time to the agenda, but to me, after 90 days, if they haven't made any effort to resolve the issue, because let's face it, it's proportionate. You shouldn't be using a lot of utilities if you're not open for business.
Mhm.
And we are working on the sanitation component. Rob's doing a great job with that. And I know as a commission, you want to help the people get through this. But my recommendation is after 90 days, we put back on the late fees unless they want to come appeal it. So I want to ask the board that question since Kathleen was talking about it.
All right, and Kathleen was talking about it because I had to go and ask a question. Can we put that as an item for discussion at our workshop for next week? Since it is 9:30 already. And
Absolutely.
we weren't prepared to talk about it tonight.
No, I want you to just chew on it and then we'll throw it on the workshop agenda.
Thank
You
you.
good with that?
Yep. Everybody else?
Sure. I'm good.
Okay. All right, thank you, Kathleen.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, I guess we're up to commission comments now.
Chair Mealy,
Yes?
I have your results of your.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
After totaling them all up, the person who will take, do you want me to do the lowest score or just the seats? I'll just do the lowest scores. So Stephanie Luther and Mike Akialis, Scott Chapius, and Kathy Wilcox will be your representatives on the EDTF.
Okay, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
All righty, commission reports, comments, and we'll start with the mayor.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Real quick, I spoke with Pastor Solano the other day. He reached out to me because the Flagler Beach Rotary has donated quite a bit of money to the food bank. And he wanted to know if we have a need in Flagler Beach for people maybe wanting some food. I think we absolutely do. I think we have a lot of seniors that probably won't drive out there to wait in line to get food. So he's willing to do a drop here for our citizens, and we can I spoke to Larry and Matt about this. We talked about different locations to do it, and we had decided that the WIC line by the library would probably be the best location, simply because you can pull in and then pull out. We kind of like when we do the waste drops, hazardous waste drops. It's late, I'm tired. And there's also a pavilion there with tables, so it's covered. What we don't want to do is do it in an inside place because there won't be enough room for social distancing from the volunteers and that type of thing. So we're working on Saturday, May 2nd. Not quite sure of the time yet. Palm Coast is doing theirs the same day, which I think will be good because then Palm Coast can go to Palm Coast and Flagler Beach can come to Flagler Beach. And I'm going to put out an email. I'll work with Janelle in the next day or two, reaching out to our residents, asking them if they would like to participate, or if they cannot drive to get there, we would have people deliver the food to them, not go into their house, just outside their door. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that before we put that out there. Anybody have any issues?
No, I don't have any issues. I have a question. I think I had mentioned to you that the Women's Club was collecting money for the food drive.
Yes. Mhm.
So would I give you that money or send it to Pastor?
No, no, and I don't have it. It's in the kitchen, but I have the address of the food bank. And
Oh, I have it. It's on Education
Okay,
Way.
and who you make, I'm sorry.
On Education Way?
No, I will
Yeah.
put that on the email as well, who you would make the check out to and the address. What I don't want to do is collect any money personally for it, and I don't want to collect any food personally for it. But I do encourage people to make donations, obviously, to the food bank, financial donations. But personally, I'm not going to be taking any food donations or collecting any money myself. So I will post that on the website in the email as well for people that want to make donations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any issues or questions of Linda?
I just had a couple of emails that came in and people wanted to actually donate food and money. So that'll be very helpful. I can direct them to that, and direct them to the website specifically. So that's great.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I don't know if we can make a decision on this tonight, Drew, or we have to wait on this, but I mentioned earlier our beach being open from 6 till 8 at night.
It's a emergency order issued by the city manager. So you can give direction to staff to ask them to consider anything you'd like to.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of residents that are confused, or, they're going down on our beach anyway. And it's not convenient for them to go up to the county because they really don't have access to those beaches since they don't have any of their parks open for parking. And, there are, I don't know if anybody else, I've gotten requests, of course, for several things, but I do believe that we should go along with the county in the 6 to 8. And that's just my feeling. I don't know how the city manager or the chief feels about that. We seem to have the lifeguards out there anyway, driving up and down the beach at that time. So
Yeah, Mayor, if I may chime in, the challenge, we had this discussion, not you and I, but the policy committee of my public safety group is challenging is to take care of 6.2 miles, unlike the county taking care of a very small area. But I can promise you this, and working with Matt and Bobby, when we come out of that meeting on Saturday, I think you'll like what we're going to walk in there with. And I think you'll like what we're going to walk out of there with. Having gaps, it turns into a nightmare when it comes to you come in, you kick them out, and you bring them back in. We're looking at more of a, because the public has been so cooperative, based on the report from the police chief, is I think we're well beyond having gaps. But I don't want to give too much away. We're going to discuss it Saturday. But I do understand where you're coming from, because that was a discussion too. Why is the county doing something different than Flagler Beach? It really is. However, our goal is Flagler Beach, based on 6.2 miles. I think we have a pretty good game plan, where I think the public overall is going to like what comes out of that meeting. As soon as we walk out of that meeting Saturday, everybody, constitutional officers, will get a phone call.
Hey, Larry.
So I hear you. Yes, sir.
Larry, in this meeting though, what I hope we come out with more than just the next step. I hope we come out with a plan. I know everybody's just growing weary of waiting on what the next step is, and then it gets revealed after being a secret for a while. We need to give out more information than that. And I know you're worried about false hope and everything, but we can give out more information.
Now, quite frankly, Commissioner Cooley, nothing will make me happier than to have a plan. I believe in plans. We have a 5-year work plan for everything we do in this city. So don't think for a minute I don't hear you. The problem is, if it was up to Larry Newsom and my public safety, we would have a plan and we would implement a plan. The biggest thing is that, You know, there's other people involved from, you met one of them, Bob Snyder, and, you know, all the way up to the governor's office. So my goal is to have a plan, because truly having a plan makes it easier on me. More so, it makes it easier on my staff, because it's very easy to implement something like that. The challenge, I won't say problem, the challenge is, and I'm hoping to walk out Saturday also with a short-term and long-term plan. That's my goal. That way, when you're approached at your place of business, or anybody else's constitutional officers that represent Flagler Beach, I want to give you something that you can tell the people. And right now, you know, if I give you something, I'm not sure if it's going to change tomorrow. So that's my goal. My goal is to have something that you can tell the people, but you're not calling me back up and yelling at me going, why'd you tell me this? Well, it was a good plan that day. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that we're dealing with a virus. We're not dealing with being able to look at when the wind will be blowing, how fast. You know, like with hurricanes, you can kind of predict what's happening.
Absolutely.
We're dealing with an unknown. So you could say, yes, we're going to do this by this time, and then the virus acts up again, or the virus gets better.
Well, trust me, you know, you got a public safety that's a very, fire department, police department, very structured, very, very structured. You give them orders and they'll take care of business. So if you think they enjoy this, you know, not having a plan, I can promise you one thing, they're not enjoying it at all. You know, you give them this is what we're going to do today, this is what we're going to do next week, this is what we're going to do the week after. That's what they're looking for, very structured individuals. And I wish I could give that to them, and we're working that away. So Commissioner Cooley, to answer your question is, as soon as I can put together a short-term and long-term plan and feel like I've not created it, but it's going to be fact, because my goal is I don't want any of my constitutional officers saying one thing today and being wrong tomorrow. That's my goal.
And I'd like to add to that, that we are the elected officials of Flagler Beach, not the people that are elected to represent the county. Yes, we have to rely on Bob Snyder. He's our health department person. He's the expert that we rely on. But I don't want decisions made by any of the elected officials that meet in Benel.
Not going to happen as long as I'm here.
Okay. I know we
And
have
that's why we're glad that you're back.
Right. And, you know, I know there are things we have to rely on the governor for. I had a question that I forgot to ask Bob Snyder. Larry, maybe you can answer. Yes, this task force is meeting at the state level. There are no health officials on that task force from what I've heard. Suppose they come up with some things that we as Flagler Beach don't agree with.
Well, I mean, we could always appeal it. It's a very good question.
Depends on how they implement it. It depends on if the governor issues an order that leaves discretion to local jurisdictions, then we would have jurisdiction. Or if the governor issues an order that takes away our jurisdiction, then we have an issue.
Okay.
I think the governor's willing to give a lot of things back to the local agencies in due time. And that's my opinion. But I will tell you, because I would do the same thing as soon as I can pass it on to local municipalities. And Matt and Alvin and even the administrator, we chat. But if you'll notice, the recent executive order that's been modified, I can promise you, I work for my board and we make the decisions for Flagler Beach. So as far as a territorial issue, it's between us. It's between us from an operational standpoint. It's between you as constitutional officers and me as your chief operation officer. So that's where we're at. That's already been adopted.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
It needed to be said.
Yes, ma'am.
Overtly. Okay. where were we?
And Mayor, before you move off of the beach, if I may jump in for just a second, I saw the email that you'd forwarded on, and I'll get with your, there was an email sent, I know it was sent to the mayor, I don't know if others received it, on
Yeah.
the no sitting on the beach issue and ADA compliance and making sure that we are considering people of various abilities. So I'll get with Larry and your public safety folks, and I'll also pass the comment on to the county so they can be aware of that, because I think that was a very valid issue that was raised.
Drew, you may want to talk to the chief because I had a phone call from one of the news agencies the other day and a couple emails, and Matt addressed that very well. So you may want to get with Chief Downing.
And that was my plan. Like I said, I get with Larry and your public
Okay.
safety folks.
That was addressed this morning. We had a gentleman that did show up. We actually parked him right where the ADA ramp is. He said he couldn't go down the ramp. So he actually sat on the wooden bench. We offered him help down there. Tom Gillen was there. The lifeguards were there. He probably stayed there 2 hours, got back in his car and left. So we're complying with ADA. If they want to use the Moby chairs, we have those available as well.
Okay, well, I just got another, Matt, I just got another email. So that's what they're talking about.
I copied him on it.
Okay.
We've
That's
also
all I
got
have.
the handicap parking open down there at the boardwalk, and we can set up some additional temporary handicap parking, the same we'd use at First Friday if we start growing into more ADA folks coming down.
Okay, I'm glad to hear we're using the Moby chairs. I wasn't sure if we were doing that. Okay.
Believe it or not, we've ordered some mats also to put down at the bottom of the ADA ramp, actually prior to this fiasco.
Right.
So, you know, as you know, I have a passion for that. So we're working hard on that. The ADA parking places are open. So if anybody has a question, I'll be happy to address it when any citizen or anybody else.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Linda, you said you were done?
Yeah.
Okay, Eric?
All right, I only got a couple things. Wanted to, in Chief Pace, I'm glad you're on here. Wanted to thank you and your staff for the phenomenal job that was done with the house fire on the south side of town. And it was, you know, the whole discussion about the ladder truck was, that was all before me. I don't even know if I lived here when that all happened, but I can tell you this, if anyone had any doubts about that truck's abilities and the value that brings to the fleet, it ended during that house fire when it got deployed. And for those of you that have not seen that in action, there is a time-lapse video of the entire incident. And we had, I think, 4 hoses going on the ground. And when that boom with the water cannon got over top the house, which is far closer than any human could have ever got, and was able to get above the house and rain down I think it's like 1,200 gallons per minute of water on that house. It saved the house next door, and it could arguably have saved the entire block. And it was instant. And to watch the video is actually startling when you see when that went into action. It was highly impressive. And Chief, I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that or not.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Commissioner. And you know, I've said it for a long time. There are many justifications throughout the city where an elevated water stream is going to be needed to be utilized. And I give a lot of credit to the fire crews that were on that call. And much like you said, there was a possibilities there that that entire block could have easily burned down. And to keep half the house standing and keep it minimized on these 0 lot lines, that was an excellent call. So, but I appreciate you acknowledging that.
And other commissioners, there's a picture of just how close that house was to the neighboring house.
Yeah.
And it's got to be about 5 feet. And the neighbor's house is not even touched. There's not even a burn mark on it. And when it became a risk, they deployed the boom and got right over top the house. And went into defense and immediately got control of the fire. Had we not had that truck, we would have been in a lot of trouble. And just for research purposes, I went to look at, because there was some folks that made the argument that because of the expense of that truck, we can rely on the county towers for that. The nearest engine house is 15 minutes away. And if that ladder is not available, the next closest is 25 minutes away. The block would have been burned to the ground by then. That was a raging, that was a really, really high temp fire. So if there was any doubts about that vehicle, and I don't know anything about fire equipment, but I know that was out there, and there was doubts about the purchase price and any of that. It's gone. And that was an amazing video watching that happen. Next thing I got is this one. We had, and Chief, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. We believe we had a suicide the other day here in town, and I wanted to make sure. And Larry, this is going to be new to you because you were out, but I would like to make sure that just staff is pursuing the mental health awareness folks that wanted to come into town to help out. I would just like to, it's a volunteer group and it's a nonprofit, and they're just here to help for free. And I'd like to just make sure that, Larry, if you can continue to pursue that and get to know those folks and maybe get them here in town, and let's utilize those services.
You got it.
And both chiefs know about it, and they can bring you up to speed on that. And the last thing I got, and Jane and Linda, I know you both touched on it. I wanted to address the importance of engagement with commission meetings, but more specifically public comment, and what public comment is. And this is just for the folks that are tuned in and the folks that want to participate in the process and they want to be heard. I want to make sure that they understand how to do it and how to get on record and everything. And because there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of folks that want to be heard, and I want them to be heard. The first thing is, posting in local chat groups is not public comment. It's public as in you're on social media, but it is not public comment recorded in minutes at a city meeting where your comment is going to make a difference on that topic. And I think it's important for citizens to know that. We want your input, but you have to, email, call Penny. You got to participate in the process of the meeting. To post in a chat group will not get you in a public comment as far as recorded at the city level. I hope that makes sense. Making selfie videos and posting those on social media is not public comment. We have some county level people doing that. If it was a passionate topic, then that individual would come before us and state their case, which they have not done. That is not public comment either. The making radio infomercials, any of that stuff, and it's just a matter of when we make decisions, it is our job to make decisions based off the information that is brought before us. And all the public comment, all the data we gather and all the public comments and everything that is possibly brought to us for the meeting, that is when we make the decision. We don't make the decision before our meeting based on something we saw on the internet. And I think that's very important for citizens to know. A lot of it is common knowledge for some folks, but for some it's not. And I want our citizens to be heard, and I want them to participate in the process, and I want the feedback, but it's important that it gets to us in the right manner so we can actually use it to make decisions. That's all I got.
And if I can jump in on that real quick, Eric, just for your benefit and the public's benefit, I know you guys all know it, but some people in the public may not realize it. it also, if they're putting stuff on Facebook and sometimes people, I don't know if you're having the issue there, but in some jurisdictions, people don't understand why the elected officials aren't commenting back on what they're putting on Facebook. And really you guys can't, because as you said it, you're doing the business there in chambers or virtually now, but with minutes being kept and observing the protocols of sunshine law. So it's not a forum that you guys can really participate in either. And I think the public needs to understand that also.
Thank you. That's an important point, Drew. Eric, did you have anything else?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, Rick?
Okay. I know Larry spoke to the swales and that the contractor's been chased off the island, and we're going to move forward with somebody else that's on that made a bid. Who that may be. Do you have any idea how long it'll take to make that determination? And I guess there's no way of knowing it, right, Larry? Because you're going to have, it depends on how busy whoever the contractor is, right?
Well, no, not at all. First of all, we're meeting, there was 3 people that came in on the bid. There was Klein, the one that I just fired 2 days ago. Another company. But we plan on being done with the swell project. That's going back and fix, it's 3 phases. One is correcting the issue about a lot of the dead grass that's out there in the swells. I will tell you, Commissioner, I have a water truck you and I have talked about that's been sitting across from our house for 7 to 8 days. Well, that means it's not watering the grass. But anyway, to answer your question, to keep it short, is we are looking at being done no later than the 30th of next month. We'd like to be done around the 15th or the 20th so we can do a punch list, get the invoices in, and get reimbursed. Our discussion with St. John's is that they said, well, you got plenty of time. There's no reason to do an extension. The first company I talked to, and the reason I'm using the same companies on the bid package, it still meets our state procurement requirements. So we are insured reimbursement. Let's face it, there's still about $340,000 that's out there on the table. So the goal is, and we will meet that goal, is we'll be done before the end of next month.
Okay. Now, are we going to, obviously we're going to have to go over every square inch of this thing and see what's substandard and what's dead and what
We already have a guy doing
what
it.
doesn't match. So
They already wrote, I already had somebody ride the roadways today. That's already active. So I got a guy out to do an inventory on what's been done. Does the grass match the yard? All that stuff. Now, I've been in the office all day today, just for the reason, because I've got a guy out there that's actually taking care of that, and we'll coordinate with who we're going to pick. I'll be honest with you. We interview a company in the morning at 8 o'clock. The other company that's on the bid list. But I'm really wanting Klein, because Klein looked at me and said, Larry, we'll take care of this city. And we'll do it based on what the revenues are. That's all I ask. This thing has been a situation. So I really feel like we're going to get it done. I do have a public announcement coming out apologizing for the mistakes that I've made on this project. Whether I made it or my staff made it, at the end of the day, I made it. So we're going to fix it, and we're going to get it taken care of. By the end of next month.
They put a lot of sod down over the last week. The rolls of the Bahia, and then they came in the last couple of days and put a lot of St. Augustine down, and not one blade of grass has been watered. Are we going to be able to implement watering this stuff to save it, or are we going to replace all that over again?
Well, I'm not an expert on grass outside of mowing it. But
You're not an expert at that either.
I appreciate you pointing that out. However, I do have 5 acres of panhandle I do have to mow, but the bottom line is that that's what this guy is for. He's going to tell us exactly how
Okay.
we can get this city back whole again on this project.
Okay. Very good. I'll leave that alone then. Appreciate that. All right. It moves me on to the parking lot project. They did all the asphalt work today. It looks absolutely wonderful. They did a very nice job. Looks like it's graded very nicely. It's nice and flat.
That's Halifax. Halifax is a great paving company. They really are.
I know. I worked for them for like 3 years, but
okay.
I have a couple of questions. Fred's still there? Yeah, he's there. Hey, did we move some of the handicap parking around from what I still have my drawing that we were given back when we signed off on this parking lot project. And
Yes.
It looks to me as though they moved a couple of handicap parking spaces around.
Yes, sir. Yes, we did.
Well, the ones up near the breezeway on the west side of the breezeway, they're adding 2 there, right?
Yeah, there's 2 handicap spaces before, and I believe there's going to be 2 handicap spaces when we're done. They're pretty much basically the same place they were before, except you're going to be able to get in and get out of them.
Okay, so there's the drawing that I have shows 2 new ones on the east side of the breezeway and 2 of them on the west side of the library. Is that where they're going to be?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They haven't striped. They're going to be striping them tomorrow, I believe. And you're
Well,
right. You're correct. The paving contractor did an outstanding job, but it was a superb design that they followed.
All right. Well, according to my drawing, what they had written down on the ground before they paved it today was that there was going to be 2 handicap spots on the west side of that breezeway.
Rick,
So I was just wondering.
Rick, is this something that you can call Fred about tomorrow when we don't have to take everybody's time on it? If you have detailed questions like that, could you call Fred tomorrow and work on it? It's 10 o'clock.
All right. So I've been writing things down all day and you're going to stop me from it. All right. No, it's not. Not if they're striping it tomorrow. No. Another thing is any thought been given into maybe creating a couple of golf cart parking spaces? I mean, now's a perfect opportune time to do that.
That could easily be done.
All right, Fred, can you give me a call in the morning then, a little bit? Maybe we could talk about the where the parking is and all that. Or Larry, can I get with you and do that, or what? Who do I talk to? If I can't do it now.
Speak to the city manager.
Rick, what we'll do is we'll have Lee meet you out there in the morning. I have an 8 o'clock with a contractor and I have a 9 o'clock. But we'll get Lee to meet you out there, and truly making golf cart parking, you just take a regular parking and cut it in half.
Exactly. All right. If we can meet out there in the morning, I'd appreciate that. And all right, we'll save a few minutes on that. All right. Why is the golf course open? It's not, correct?
Correct.
It's not. So the motion was that we open the golf course when the beach opens. So how do we rectify that?
Well, Drew's still on. What I would suggest And if my elected officials don't have a problem with it, I suggest we go back and modify the executive order and allow them to follow the rules that they've identified come Monday morning. And they actually open from, what is it, dusk to dawn?
Dawn to dusk is what you said.
Dawn to dusk. I always get it backwards. I mean, you know, 'cause you can't play golf. Well, you can't play golf in the dark. I've done it before, but.
So how's sunrise to sunset? How's that? You
I
know,
mean, I
what-
really think that's where I'm at. And we can modify the executive order, right, Drew?
Yep, no problem. And the only thing that I had added based on the discussion that was had earlier was including in there for pairs or foursomes to wear masks when in close proximity.
Yeah, but they have plenty of golf carts, as long as they accept, you're saying wear a mask only if it's going to be 2 per cart.
Well, if they were in close proximity with others, if they're in the pro shop, if they're in close proximity on the course for some reason. I think that was the comment that was made earlier.
Yep, I had written that down.
If you guys are okay with that, I think that's what we need to do with the golf course. Keep it separate from the beach. And let's just modify the executive order that went out while I was out. And let the golf course go out there trying to make a few bucks. Anybody have a problem with that?
Okay, I don't know. Let's go around. Eric, how are you with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, Rick? Rick, you're on mute.
Hey, well, Rick is unmuting.
Okay.
Well, he's unmuting. Can we just say pending their plan also?
Yes. Do you want, Drew, do we need?
I was actually going to incorporate that into the modification of the order.
Okay. Do you need an actual motion on this, or is consensus?
No, it's direction to staff. It was issued from the executive, so
Okay.
it's more of input for the executive to take into as we modify that order.
Okay, that's what I thought. Ken, you all right with it?
Absolutely.
Okay, Debbie?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm good with it as well.
Okay, so you got your direction then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we're waiting until Monday to do that?
In the morning, Larry.
Well, as soon as we can get it modified, I mean.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we give them the weekend? I mean,
Well,
that was part of what the motion
I'll
was.
have the amendment to Larry in the morning.
Yeah, just give me in the morning. I mean, if we can get them cranking over the weekend, I'm more than happy to deliver the message.
Okay, very good.
Good.
All right. All right, not to go on too much longer. I just wanted to make sure that I spoke to this when you weren't on our last meeting, Larry. Strategic planning. We need to get that kind of geared up for this coming year. The other thing I wanted to get the consensus amongst the others is that maybe we could, as a group, as commissioner, can direct our city manager to create a list of projects that are ongoing or in this year's budget, so that we all know where they stand. We got 2 new commissioners that probably don't know much about what is going on. We've got a lot of projects going, and it'd be nice to know what they are and how much has been done, percentage wise, and most importantly, who the project manager is on them. Because I think some of these projects need to be have a little more, a little better overview as they progress.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, Commissioner. I mean, I do remember when I first got here, it was like we weren't doing enough projects, and now we're doing many. But I do agree with oversight when it comes to the projects. Like I say, I can only take the past project as a valuable lesson. We need to slow down. The projects aren't going to go away, but I'll work with Fred and get you a list, because we have, since Fred left, come on board, there's a long list of projects everywhere from water, wastewater, and paving, slip lining,
Right.
That you don't know about when it comes to changing out the meters. You know, because
frame repairs, I'd like to know where that's standing. And I think it would be to everybody's benefit on the commission.
Yeah, they've been running so fast that we need to do a better job on making sure you guys have the list. And I'll accept responsibility for that too.
All right, one last thing. Can you get us some information on, and I'll just keep getting inundated by people asking about natural gas. Or can you find out whether if they're planning on providing that amenity to our city?
Well,
or they just run a pipe and running off.
No, they are planning on providing to the city. The question is, right now they're putting in the base infrastructure down the right of ways. But I can get you more detail. What I'll do is I'll get Ron Mead to actually get his staff to let me know what the detail is. Because the company that's out there working right now, all they are is a contractor. And I'm not sure exactly what gas company is going to be supplying us the natural gas, but I will tell you that the city of Flagler Beach will be getting natural gas available. Should you go from propane to natural gas? Well, that's going to be up to the restaurant owners. Now, believe it or not, it's only been 8 years since Pensacola Beach got natural gas, which had to cross the intercoastal waterway. So let me get the details on that, and I'll get it out to all the elected officials.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice. All right, thanks, Larry. I'll pass on from there.
Okay, Ken, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things. I like some of the others, I'd like to thank the Chief Pace and Chief Doherty for the work that we've done for the last couple of weeks since Larry was out. Larry, I'd like to welcome you back again. I'll be happy to see you back and 100% and going after it. I think the project list for all of us would be very helpful. I would find it very helpful. So I commend Commissioner Bellium for that suggestion. And on another thing, relating to the social media blast that's been going out, it's not helpful at all. Some of the things that other people are doing, and I'm not going to mention their names because it's not really beneficial to do that. But I try to stay off of social media when it comes to that thing, especially as an elected official anyway, because it's not helpful. It confuses our residents in particular. So we'll just move forward. We're commissioners. We are managing our own city, and that's what we have to depend on. And I've seen some of the videos as well, and it's very disappointing to see some of the things that are out there and getting people all riled up. But we do what we have to do, and my decisions are made based on the health, welfare, and safety of the people in the community in which I'm serving. And it's not going to be based on politics. So again, I commend all of you commissioners for the work you do and our staffs. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. These are trying, difficult times, but we'll make it through it. It's just tough, but we'll make it. And that's all I have.
Good statement, Ken. Thank you. Debbie, you have anything?
Just two quick things. I am definitely a proponent of having golf cart lanes at the WIC line and at the library. That would be a great idea. And then secondly, we have a potential rally this weekend, or protest, whatever you want to call it. I just want to make sure that the city is prepared for social distancing. If it gets ugly, I don't expect it will, but I just want to make sure as a city we're prepared in case it does.
I'm sure the chiefs are all ready to deal with it.
Drew,
Yes.
do you have any comments about that?
I'm not going to make any the meeting, but I'm in touch with Sheriff Staley daily about this. And we're prepared.
Okay. Anything else, Debbie?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. In the middle of all this, it occurred to me that May 25th is Memorial Day, and that we usually have a Memorial Day ceremony in the park. I'm not ready to have a Memorial Day ceremony in the park. So I contacted Vern and asked if he would be willing to give up a half hour of time on the radio station. because we do have quite a few people in town who don't have computers, and whatever we might come up with electronically, they may not be able to access. But everybody's got a radio. So he was willing to do that. And what I did was contact the same speaker we had last time, Ed Beyer from the AMVETS. Where was he from? American Legion, sorry. And he was thrilled, so he will come talk. I'm sure Linda will make a few comments. And so we will have a very modified Memorial Day, but we will have something. So, I think that's important for the vets and the people in town. So it'll be May 25th at 1 o'clock. And if anybody else wishes to speak that day, just let me know. I haven't worked out the details with Vern. And you don't have to get cookies, because it's not going to be a social thing. I too want to thank staff and everybody and the people in town who've been so cooperative too. Unfortunately, the direct relief package that Congress was voting on does not include any money for cities once again, but I understand there will be a next one, so maybe we can get in there. And a county commissioner has been on all the social media things saying how much money the county pays to maintain our beach. And I'm scratching my head and saying, huh? So I called Kathleen today. I said, what I remember from the county is they give us money for the lifeguards, $75,500 for the lifeguard salaries. Everything else we get comes from the TDC, which is not property tax money. And that's all I could remember coming from the county tax.
That's it.
And so that's it. So if people say to you, the county is spending so much money on the beach, Flagler Beach has no right to say it's their beach. Sorry. And so I think it'd be.
Well said, well said.
Don't listen to the noise.
Yeah, well, but the noise gets very loud.
I know.
And that's what I think. I'm all in favor of opening the golf course. I think if they're going to follow all the rules, I think that's great. So I'm done. Drew, do you have anything?
Just one, and that is I've talked to Penny about this. We do not know right now what your next regular meeting will look like. Your workshop will still be within the time frame of the governor's existing order regarding the waiver of the quorum provisions, but there has been no indication of if that's going to be extended, amended, what's going to happen there. So we are kind of on pins and needles waiting to see what's going to happen with the virtual meetings and if that's going to be extended for us. And as of right now, we do not know.
Right.
And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Larry?
Yes, ma'am, real quick. What I'll do is we'll be talking about capital projects and reports. I'll have our general consultant that's managing the dune walkover projects to actually, instead of having him talk to you now, because he showed up this afternoon, it's just he'll put together a report that'll be sent out to all the elected officials on what's been done and what will be done. North and south when it comes to the dune walkovers as far as the replacement. So Jeff will take care of that. FDOT will be bringing in sand to cover up the second wall where it's been eroded, but I told them that they might as well go ahead and wait till after this weekend because we're going to be taking a lot of wind. Keep in mind, I know there was a discussion also about height and lose a vision of the beach, depending on the finished floor elevations, if it's a first floor or second floor. you know, DOT has offered to buy a lot of linear feet of sand fencing that it's now is allowed. And I'll work with Matt, because Matt has, you know, his relationship with the sheriff, of course, everybody knows that. Couldn't be better. And we'll start looking at putting the sand fencing up on top of the dune. I realize we're just trying to get our feet back on the ground based on the issues we're dealing with, but all that's in play, just so you'll know. Outside of the other issues that we're dealing with. You know, I've already talked to you about the swells. Let's not beat that dead horse. And I appreciate your support of the golf course. I think that'll work out fine. So in the sake of time, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Newsom, did
Yeah.
you, real quick, we discussed possibly getting some direction or bringing up at least the 4th of July.
I was gonna
I
ask.
figured we'll do that at the workshop.
Okay,
No, thank you.
yeah, I had that on my list
Tuesday at
too.
midnight. I figured workshop be perfect.
Okay, Matt, are you there? Hi, do you have anything?
No, ma'am, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, you look like you need sleep. Bobby, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Good, Fred?
No.
No? All right, Penny.
Just two quick things. The listing agreement for 1844 South Central that we have with Landmark Properties. It either has expired or is expiring. Just do you want me to agree to relist it and have Linda sign that? It's the
Sure.
same terms. It doesn't cost anything.
Right, sure.
And then you mentioned Rick. Sorry.
I don't know. They've had that listing for what, over a year now?
Well, I'll forward you the information. I thought I did forward something the other day about what they've been doing, but I'll go back and double check if I didn't. She said they're still receiving inquiries on a regular basis and transactions have slowed down since the pandemic, but they're still working. And they've closed on the sale of 3 lots on South Central this month. But you also have to remember that lot has all those turtle dens on it and you had them do that environmental study and it reports it in there and the cost it would have to move them right in it at your request.
Okay, I
is
think we ought to give it, a little thought rather than just checking off on it just that quickly.
Well, if you would like me to add it to I mean, if you have a consensus there to either tell me to relist it or a consensus to add it to the workshop agenda for discussion.
I would like to see it on the workshop or in the workshop.
Would we have to go out for bid again and have bids come in? Who's going to list it, how they're going to list it like we did before?
You would have to get proposals, yes, not
Okay.
necessarily bids.
So that's what you're wanting to do, Commissioner Belhumer, is getting all the realtors to put in proposals to sell it?
Well, and it's been a year. I mean, there are creative ways to try and find a way to, to get things sold. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what all the things that they say they keep getting calls on it, but
right. And you did have a couple of
sold.
offers. There were a couple of
did.
offers on it, but you guys didn't
Turn them down, right?
Yep. What's the asking price?
It was, let's see, it is 169.
And approximate cost to relocate the turtles?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the cost of the turtles.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
I'm
Maybe.
trying to answer.
We can talk about it at the workshop. It's pretty late, so I'm okay with
$4,500 to $7,200 to relocate.
Okay.
Let's put it on the workshop and talk about it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
That's 3.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add to the works. The other thing I had was Commissioner Belhumer, you mentioned the strategic planning. I just want to let you guys know, if you don't know already, the chamber is moving, and I actually saw their furniture listed on a consolidating garage sale site, local lady that does that. And their big executive conference room, they have that table for sale. I don't know if Larry's interested in
For the
that
WIC line,
for the WIC line.
absolutely.
I can get an appointment to see how much it is and see what I can do there.
Perfect. We'll take all the furniture.
No, I don't. Conference table would work well.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah, then we can have the strategic planning in our own building from here after.
Well, you won't be having it there anyway. They're moving.
All right. Okay.
Nice that I know about it, being the liaison to the chamber. Anyway. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you,
Larry,
Carlos. And
Larry, give me a call in the morning, please. Okay.
Good night, Jane.
Good night.
good night. Good night, John
Good
Boy.
night, everybody.
Night, Boy. Night, Mary
Yeah,
Ann.
I said it before you.